Good evening, free enterprise community. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a very exciting race for you from the Gaea Hat group between Neon Gray and mikemike34. I'm Klopfer, and I'm joined in the virtual commentary booth by Possum Morpheus. How are you feeling about tonight's race?
Oh, I'm excited for this evening's race between Mike, and Neon. Neon Gray being one of the preeminent members of the Anti-Agility Anchor Club, and Mike being one of the preeminent members of the AC, not Adamant Cup, but Ancient Cave Running Group from Lufia 2, who have made their way over to Free Enterprise. So this is a battle of two very good runners. And if you can't already tell, they're part of the Hat Group, y'all.
Hat, 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 hat. I love those objectives. Thank you for our tracker and or Rishim who did that. Dubword or Dishmu. Thank you for all the behind the scenes work there. But yeah, definitely really excited for this race. As you noted, two very good runners. Neon Gray has been just running for a long time and very familiar with a lot of different strategies here, as well as a lot of different anchor setups. And Mike has really been putting in a lot of time here, practicing a lot of different Adamant Cup seeds. So I'm really excited to see how both of them will do.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a very exciting match. I am looking forward to see what strategy reigns supreme this evening. I know that we're going to get a contrast in play styles, and I, for one, am and very, like I said, very much so looking forward to it. Let's see if we can figure out some naming schemes here. Yeah, I got nothing on either of these. Your thoughts, Klopfer?
Nope, also totally lost. Chat, little help. Someone more clever than us out there.
Well, we'll let chat figure that out on our behalf. Let's talk about these group flags and some things to expect from this. We obviously have T Wildish on, which kind of shapes the looting for our runners, looking for high quality, high power right off the bat from some of those more normal looting locations like Eblin Castle, Watery Pass, where you can find some really good stuff. What are you looking for from the runners? Any highlights for the flags that you can think of, Klopfer?
I think you definitely touched on a very important one there. The T Wildish really does push towards those early game lootings. I think it also has made a certain set of trap chests really appealing to dip. Atlan Castle comes up again. Those ones look really good if you can find the power to take them on, or maybe some hourglasses to do so, as well as Flame Dog is fast. If you find yourself hanging at the Tower of Zot and you can find the chest quickly, it's a relatively fast fight. And if one of those drops you an adamant armor, there's a reason why this is the Adamant Cup. It includes the Adamant armor. That is incredibly powerful piece of gear that can just shape the entirety of the rest of the seed once you find one.
Yeah, absolutely. Those adamant armors, goes without saying, one of the best pieces of equipment in all of Final Fantasy games, not just this one. Looking on our screen before this all disappears and we start the seed, I saw an Edward, I saw a Forge, I saw a Giant. This could be exciting, and this is not a power start. Edward Porum, a black belt, a
Yeah,
kamikaze, a sylph summon. Yikes. Runners are going to need a bit of a kickstart with this one.
yeah, definitely. I think you're right. There was even there the hope of, well, maybe the key item will open up things for us. Maybe another free character check we can do right now. Maybe the Earth Crystal for immediate access to the treasury. But no, just a black belt. So we're going to need to find power from somewhere else, or at least some J items to start getting this seed going. But that being said, there is definitely some things that could turn this party on. Probably a heroine robe and a good bow would be one of the best things to see. Um, as well as maybe the spoon will just show up early, which that actually allows Edward to really start doing some damage and getting you through multiple boss locations.
Yeah, Dancing Dagger would be huge here.
Yeah,
A good bow. I did see that Neon checked the equipment for the characters. I think it was a short bow and a
yeah.
crossbow. That's also not great. Let's see what this freaky item is, though, and see if Bedward will help out his fellow Edward, who is running around. And the verdict is we are going to get an apple. This is just not the
Is
start.
really just not helping there. But oh, well, those HP pools are kind of low, so let's take advantage of that apple right away. Divergence here, Mike going for that loot, try and see if he can find that power he needs to start getting through the seed.
Yeah, and Mike found a bunch of stuff that would be great for like Sid or Kane,
Mhm.
even a Cecil post Hobbs. Unfortunately, not a whole lot that is going to be helping this team at this moment. So the power struggle continues, at least for right now.
Yeah, I did mention Hobbs. It could be really important which characters hang out on Hobbs. If there's a really powerful one there, or just maybe someone who can make use of the gear we're finding, that could really be the power shot we need to this team to get things going. Likely we'll see a reset here from Mike. We did not find any source of power yet to take on these trap chests.
Yeah, even finding like a single hourglass
Mhm.
to just kind of buy some time, maybe a coffin to try to help out. Just really tough position that the runners are put in. There's that hourglass
There's
and a
that
charm.
hourglass immediately after the trap chest. But
Uh, the
uh,
hourglass is helpful, maybe not right now, but as soon as a little bit of power is found, that hourglass could come in handy. Again, though, this Ebling Castle, a lot of loot for players who are not in this team. And this is one of the struggles with Ebling Castle is because of the loot tiering. It's actually more difficult to find loot for this party. This is the type of party that may benefit from going to a place like Damsian Basement or Antlion Cave, more of the old school loot routing because of how the tiering works. Whereas you're going to find all like the Gungners, the Dragoon Spears, and all that stuff we found, but none of that helps this party. So it'll be very interesting to see what other ancillary loot locations our runners hit up.
yeah, exactly. Especially if once they complete all the looting here, they haven't found anything for this party, then are they willing to just continue spending time on looting to be able to get a little more power? As well as kind of some of those locations you mentioned can be good for finding J items. If we find, a big bomb, some Zeus Rage, a Stardust, things like that, that might be enough to get us through the Hobbs fight to unlock, as well as getting us whatever characters there, and maybe they can make use of that gear.
Yeah, definitely. It could also shop for, as Chad is pointing out, maybe look for a power staff for Porum to go with like a
Mhm.
bandana and a black belt. Maybe look for like an archer bow and some charm arrows. Even an elven bow. Could try to find a dancing dagger for Eddie. There's a lot of different ways to approach it. But I think some shopping is going to have to happen for this team. And you might even see things like vampires come into play.
Yep.
A lesser used J item, but something that can do 400 to 600 damage every time it's used as a single target item. So could definitely be on the table as well, which is a rarity for this flag set.
Yeah, definitely. As usually you get all this powerful gear, someone you can slap it on, and thus you don't have to depend on those vampires. But at this current state, it looks like we might need to. And since we did find all that gear, we can sell it for a big old pile of money and buy those items to get ourselves out of at least a handful of the starting fights.
Yeah, one of the nice things is like a Dragoon Spear was found in Ogre Axe, a Gungnir Spear. So that Dragoon Spear is just going to be better than the Gungnir and the Ogre Axe.
Mhm.
So you can immediately sell somewhere in the neighborhood of what 50 to 60,000 gold pieces worth of stuff. So it's really not going to be too bad.
Yep, definitely. And I think a lot of this will then just be how much time do you spend shopping? So do
Yeah.
you find the vampires going, oh, that's good enough? Or do you find a decent bow and think that's good enough? Or do you keep looking around to find maybe some more things to buy before you continue, tackling your key item locations or your character checks?
Yeah,
You see,
it's. I was gonna say it's one of those things where like this is where that Damsian basement comes into play. I do like this from Mike, going and checking out some of these loot tiers that will have lesser items, which could be more beneficial for this party. And
I do
there's that
believe I saw a
dancing
dancing
dagger.
dagger. Yeah, so
Yep.
that's something, and that they can do a few, steady 100 points of damage every turn. From Edward there. So definitely could be useful here. As well as since we do have to say launch the Falcon and turn in that rat tail, we need to launch the hovercraft anyway. So since we do have to do this at some point, routing in that loot right now when it would be useful is definitely a really good play here by Mike.
Yeah, just finding that dancing dagger, that is the best member of this party right now. With all due respect, and it's not much, to Edward and Porum, that dancing dagger is your DPS. It is your best party member right now. Sometimes your best party member comes on a stick, and that is what we have here, is that dancing dagger reigns supreme. Our runners really would love to see a Cane or an Edge up on Hobbs here. Anyone else, and they're going to feel a little bit of regret for having started this race because they're still just hurting for damage. Eddie a little less so on Mike's side. but you still want a little more than this to get going.
See where Neon Gray, if they are also heading to Damsian, or no, straight up to Hops and find out if they can't get that character to take advantage of the gear they found. And you're right, I think definitely Edge or Kane are the ones we're hoping for the most. Sid, he's not the strongest member for the entirety of the game, but right now would be enough someone to give that Ogre Axe to, the Zeus Gauntlet, the Black Belt, and can get you through. But hey, there's the Kane.
That's huge, because there was a Dragoon Spear just laying around. That is enormous for the runners. That is such a huge power spike for the team. Honestly, more important for Neon even than it is for mikemike, because Neon does not have that Dancing Dagger. So this is the source of DPS Neon really needed. It gives mikemike now 2 sources of DPS, both of which will tackle this CPU quite well, all things considered. Normally it'd be an annoying boss to fight, but Dancing Dagger from Kane will do a great bit of work here.
Yep, definitely. And the CPU itself being in the back row can also slow down taking this fight in many places, but you can jump to it as well as just hit it with that Dancing Dagger. It means you'll still be able to do good damage to it and get through this fight relatively quickly.
Yeah, and this is one of those fights that's, not fast per se, but it is free. And honestly, something I'd be happy to see out of the way early on, just from a time perspective. It's never going to be a fast fight, but it's a faster fight right now when you can do somewhere between a third and a half of the damage in one jump or Dancing Dagger.
Yeah, definitely. And when we see mikemike did enter the fight slightly behind Neon Gray there, but able to get a little bit faster with that Dancing Dagger damage.
Yeah, not too far off for Neon, though. Nope. They are going to be but a swing of a Dragoon Lance behind mikemike, I believe. So still within a couple seconds. We'll see how much that Dancing Dagger really comes into play. But we will see. We'll see what happens with this. And my trash can is back. My Discord avatar is gone. I am a happy trash panda now.
Looking good there. We have mikemike heading right on over to Antlion Cave, going to give us our first potential key item in the seed. We've had 2 misses so far, so I mean the key items do have to be somewhere, so we'll start checking these locations and hopefully start getting some progression in this seed.
Yeah, if nothing else, the major DPS concerns have been alleviated, so now it's a matter of progression since, starting with a black belt and an apple, not exactly the ideal situation for the runners, so they would love to be getting some sort of key item just to put on that tracker of theirs to know what to do and where to go. Because right now our runners are very directionless. Part of the fear of this also is that if a hook shows up, you are now down 2 key item checks from even being able to find a magma key to make it better. But we do have a free fight here in the Antlion Cave, so this is good news for the runners at least.
Yep, definitely. So with the power level a little higher, likely we could have taken anything on in the Antlion Cave, but definitely any fight you can get through fast, you're happy to see. So good to get this one done here. And already some divergence. Neon Gray is headed over to Fabul, so we'll get to see what the fight is in this location, as well as it provides a nice little chunk of experience to start getting some more power here on the party.
And another thing it does is it gets Neon a free heal for routing in Fabul defense as well. Some shop checks also, so we see black belt, lit arrows, so not too bad a shop early on, but we do see a sand ruby on mikemike's side. That could potentially be huge because that is a gated character check. Could be anyone from Cecil or Fusoya, which would obviously be the dream, to Edge, a duplicate Eddie, who knows, but a character is a character right now, because Edward with a Dancing Dagger is cool right now, but in less than about 10 minutes time, you're going to want someone else.
Yeah, exactly. So I would not be surprised to see mikemike immediately follow up to see who's at this Sand Ruby and get anything. It's going to be an additional member to the party, and it's a lot of options, as you kind of noted. That would be strict upgrades here. So really hopeful I'm sure mikemike is really hoping to see one of those. Neon Gray, on the other hand, running into the D Lunars here. Dragoon Spear, good use here.
Yeah, Dragoon Spear are going to make these D-Lunars wish that they were, not the D-Lunar, just Lunar of some other sort. That was 4,700 damage. Welcome to the party, D-Lunars. Also, that was a Rydia at the Sand Ruby, and Mike, interestingly enough, says no. Not even taking the extra body here, possibly preserving Rydia as a long-term anchor, and just not removing her from the bed at all right now.
Yep, definitely. It is nice to just know you have an anchor you can go pick up at any time. Rydia comes in with 4 agility, plenty good for anchoring any party at any point in the game. So maybe swing back there just before going to the moon. And speaking of good characters, though, we found an edge.
Yeah, we found an edge on Mike's side with an Odin. They're having lunch together, or dinner, depending on time zones. They're weird. Neon, on the other hand, they have found what I was afraid of for our runners, and that is the hook. This party, I know that we have a Dragoon Lance Cane. I know that we have a White Mage in Porum. This is not the party I want to take down a hook route. And I have to imagine our runners are thinking the same thing.
Yeah, definitely not. This could be very challenging. We do get one more character check in the hook route itself that we could do, as well as our at least both the Baron in here and Mount Ordeals. Neon Grey is going up right now to check for alternate ways. But you're right, once you see that hook, it immediately is on your mind. Is this a hook route? And if so, how am I going to get through it? And yeah, looking at this party, the answer is with much difficulty right now.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting for sure. If other characters show up. Otherwise, you may have to rely on something like a Jumping Cane and a Sylph Summon Rydia to help get through this. We do see that Mike has equipped that Dragoon Lance, and again, Dragoon Lance paying dividends here. 5780. Have a great day, second form of Dark Elf. Let's grab that edge, no worries. And on Neon side, they have found everyone's favorite for Enterprise comedy act. It's Golbez.
Eddie apparently not a fan of the comedy, and so will immediately hide, which is very nice play there by Neon Grey. Immediately getting the party down to just 2 members, which means when the dragon does show up, there will be no one to demolish. So we'll get to keep all 3 party members here for the fight. A little extra safety here in the amount of targets that can be hit before the Star Veils need to come out.
Yeah, and I mean, this spot is kind of dangerous because the magic, you would think, oh, this is an early game spot, it won't be too bad. Well, the magic is actually quite high here because in the vanilla game, the Mylon and friends, the friends as it were, have a drain attack. And they wanted the drain attack to hit. So the magic here is actually quite high. The virus, the Lit 3, will do way more damage than you'd expect here. And it's actually kind of a dangerous spot. So we'll see shortly what happens with this virus from Golbez actually dealing 556 to itself, which would easily have taken out any of the party members on Neon Grey's side. So very well done by them to go ahead and get those Veils up. And Mike spikes a power shot on the way up Ordeals as well. That's huge.
Very, very nice time there. A lot of extra strength multipliers here. Mike does have the 4 characters, so might be a little trickier here on getting the Eddie to hide in time and getting the demolish on the characters he wants to. But he does have edge, which helps a lot if he uses that as anchor. But leaving Kane there in the middle slot. So we'll see how this Golbez fight goes for Mike, where Neon Grey successfully got through there with all those Star Veils up. The fight was totally safe, and they are able to get through.
Yeah, and going from Golbez to our favorite back attack location, or back attack boss, excuse me, Karate Man. If y'all have never seen this before, the kick around the world, there goes Yang. Well, that's a thing that happened. Not a lot of damage from that kick, but still super fun to see.
You really feel like it should do extra damage when he has to, kick around the world that fast. He has to be traveling really quickly to do that, so I'd be okay seeing some extra damage numbers from that one.
Well, not only that, it's also, in every video game I've ever played, you deal bonus damage for attacking someone from behind, right?
Oh yeah, it's very surprising, so yeah.
Yeah, it should be extra damage dealt, as if they were in the front row. But hey, what are you going to do? Final Fantasy IV is a finely coded game. All features, no bugs. Probably was never intended to be a randomizer, but the wonderful developers for the Free Enterprise Randomizer, Boardface, and more recently Zoe Vermillion, have done a fantastic job keeping it all together and making it all work.
Yeah, definitely. Big thanks to them for the work they put into this, making a very, very fun to play randomizer. On Mike's side for Golbez fight, indeed he wasn't able to hide Eddie in time, but he did just go ahead and have Edge knock him down to get a little more control over who would stay alive through the demolish phase. I'm sure he's really hoping to see the Edge stay alive there, as his fast speed means he gets that Star Veil up, and to just be really safe going ahead and darting the Golbez down to end this fight as fast as possible.
Yeah, and looks like Neon has gotten through that back attack while Mike is getting through Golbez. So right now we have Neon up a hook, Mike up a Baron in. Neon also up the back attack spot here, and the key item from Ordeals that our runners are going to be rewarded with is not a key item at all, continuing a trend of, oh my heavens, where have the key items gone?
Yeah, I wonder if we'll see Hook and Sand Ruby as our only key items on the overworld, and we'll just have to be going down that hook route.
I think that's all that's left now, right? Because we have Fabul Defense done, we have Baron in, we have
Right.
Ordeals, Antlion.
That wasn't the last one.
Yeah, I think it is only
All
the
right.
Sand Ruby and the Hook on the
Oh,
overworld. Yeah, so that's a thing.
one more character to see here, so that might still be our some extra power. But yeah, depending on who the boss is at the end of this hook route, that could be a little scary. I'm interested to see what our runners will do. There are multiple trap chests out there, both source of good gear and good experience, so that might be a way to get some additional power here to help us with that. But
Yeah, and we see here Neon Gray picking up spells, and we see Mike pulling off a crumble skip, something near and dear to my heart, where you can launch a character with a kamikaze at a location that crumbles. It saves somewhere around 6 to 8 seconds of getting rid of that crumble animation. And with a character like Edge, who has a large HP pool and is already well ahead of the XP curve, pretty heads up to save that time. If this race comes down to just a couple seconds, that could be one of those shining moments. And in this tournament, we've had a lot of close matches already. So some great tech there by Mike.
and Mike might gain the news of just a sorcerer rogue, so unfortunately not the progression that he might, or some additional progression he was hoping to find. And Neon Gray retracing steps, heading on over to Baron Inn. I'll find out the Edge hanging out here.
Yeah, and that Edge, I think, is going to be a very welcome sight for Neon Gray. One of the things we kind of alluded to pre-broadcast was Neon's affinity for high agility characters. Having Kane, Edward, and Edge is really going to play into what they like to do. So I would be very surprised to see Neon take that Rydia at all, and probably just run around with the 4 highest agility characters they can find, which would be Porum, Kane, Edge, and Eddie.
Yeah, definitely. The agility is very high, especially for the boss locations we've been doing up to this point. Those hook route locations, though, as they are much deeper generally into the game, at least in a normal playthrough, not in the randomizer, are a lot faster, though. So without having an anchor set up there, those fights can move very quickly, and depending on which boss we see up there, can prove very challenging. So it'll be interesting to see if maybe once we peak that boss, if that will have any impact on how Neon Gray wants to be anchoring, at least for the hook route.
Yeah, the anchoring situation, it's going to be really neat for the hook route to see what I expect to be 2 contrasting styles. Mm-hmm. That hook route character, though, as you alluded to, that is going to be the real big thing. Is that going to be a splashy character like a Cecil, like a Fusoya, who will drive our character, or our runners rather, either through that hook route more easily, such as with a Fu, or to Eblan Castle to fish for something like a Crystal Sword, an Excalibur, even an Adamant Armor. It's going to be incredibly interesting. This hook route is going to really shape the race based on both the character that shows up as well as the boss. Something like a Kainatsu on the hook route would be just devastating for this part. But something like Baron or Kaipo Guards or, Water Hag could be a blessing. So a lot to still be decided, but this overworld left a lot to be desired, that's for sure.
That's definitely true. So if you were in this position, you had finished checking all key item locations on the overworld, and you found you're in the hook route with this party, what's your immediate play? Are you going to, say, go check who that character is, go check who the boss is, make decisions, or are you going to try to, say, minimize your walking and flying time and go immediately to try do some additional shopping, go into Eblan Castle and do those trap chests?
I think for me, as long as I had exit on Porum, I would dip into the hook route first and peek the character. If it was someone I didn't want, probably consider picking up that Rydia as an anchor and just zerking Edge and Kane to try to get through the hook route. Like, I think that setup is there, and it's probably the most conservative line, but also the most reliable. But it's really tough to say. If it's a Cecil, for example, I'm fishing in Eblin. If it's a Fu, I'm probably just diving at that point and not caring because Fusoya is Fusoya. So
Yeah.
it so much depends on what that character and what that boss is.
Yeah, definitely. And you're right. I think getting that information can be really, really valuable because both a strong character or an easy boss starts making this hook route look a little less scary. Mike is landing here. Looks like he's happy to go pick up that Riddy at this point in time.
Yeah, I would expect Mike is going to ditch Edward here and pick up Iridia. It would make a lot of sense with his party comp and his playstyle. Uh, Also, maybe he levels Iridia up and goes with Sylph. That's also an option that hasn't really been considered yet, but is a possibility based on the boss. So there is the Iridia instead of the Edward, and now it's just a matter of, does Iridia get to live, or does Iridia get to take an extended nap for the next hour and a half?
Yep. Neon Grey heading into Antlion Cave. They will still be finding out that yes, it is indeed a hook route, but they'll get the information of they have a Sand Ruby character to check, and so we'll have to see if they're interested in doing that before committing to that hook route, which we see Mike going to do now.
Yeah, so we will get our first little bit of information here. Either an Eblin Castle trap chest dive, because we do know that Mike looted the non-trap chest earlier, so he does know where they are, but is opting to go straight down the hook route, not saving, so I don't think we're going to see a lot of looting. Okay, going back out to save, so we are going to see a little more looting on the way down, which makes sense. There is a lot of high-tier loot here. And I don't think our runners have really found much at all for the edge. They'd really like to find a ninja sword, a full moon, something to get him going to act as a secondary Zerker for that Kane.
Yeah, definitely. There's also an opportunity here just in the weapon shop, as this is a gated shop, to just maybe buy him some good weapons. So just picking up whatever you can to sell, get enough money to maybe buy a ninja sword or 2 full moons, whatever is available in there. But there's always the chance of we just find nothing in that shop for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And these shops are huge, especially in the Eblin Cave. You're guaranteed 2 tier 5 consumables. And in this case, it is elixirs and sirens. Elixirs not super exciting, but the sirens, worst case scenario, you can go ahead and run up to ordeals, get 5,500 XP a pop from those. You could go down to the floors just before the King Queen Eblin spot and pull some green dragons. So there's a couple different options. The best thing in that shop's a light sword and a thunderclaw. A little surprise on Mike's side, we didn't see a thunderclaw pickup if he doesn't already have one. But we did see a Sylph summon get sold, which means that Anchor Rydia is on the table here.
And I do believe Mike does have a Thunderclaw in his inventory. I saw that while selling. And we got our first good weapon for Edge. So 1 of 2 now done.
Yeah, that Murasame is going to be huge.
And Mike's happy with that looting. Time to stop opening chests. Neon Grey has gone back into Eblin Castle, so it looks like we're interested in finding out what are in these trap chests. And I believe Neon Grey actually did let the battles load, so they actually might know which battle is where, and so they are specifically targeting this Mad Ogre one.
Yeah, so it looks like those Mad Ogres are going to have a bad day on Neon's side. That Ogre Act's going to do some work here. And Rosa is the character, and I missed the boss, unfortunately, but Rosa being the character is a pretty big pickup here. Might consider replacing Porum if he can get Zerk on Rosa quick enough, but no, says I have Zerk already. We're going to roll with what we have, and looks like Magus Sisters was the boss on the hook route. So that's a bit rude, but not too bad, because I think we picked up an Aegis Shield along the way as well. Neon Grey picks up a second power shirt, so that is big for them too.
I believe there might also be a mute knife in the inventory, so that might be why Mike is okay just going with his current party up here.
Oh, that could definitely be the case as well. Very interesting for our runners to see what they are proceeding to do, that mute knife, I guess, will carry Mike through. He seems content with that. Mura mute, in fact, will do a ton of damage.
Yes.
So that is definitely going to do the job. And we see Neon taking on more of those trap chests. So really fishing hard here, maybe for an adamant armor or some other really good gear.
Yep. Yeah, if you're willing to do all 3 trap chests in here, you get close to somewhere like a 75% chance of hitting one tier 8 item. And there are 3 items in that tier 8 category: adamant armor, and then the 2 holy swords, Excal and Crystal. So decent chance of pulling out one of those. Now, if it's a holy sword, we know that's not going to help at least get through the hook route, but very, very powerful gear that if you can eventually get that system online. And if you do get that adamant armor, that's huge at any point in the game and just on any character. We do see an Excal there being pulled. So, well, can't put that to use yet, although I guess we could dart that if we really needed to get through this hook route.
Yeah, having that emergency dart, not a bad thing. That Excal might have to be used for a rude boss here, although, I mean, if this is water hag, that's not rude. If it's gauntlet, okay, well.
All right.
This is going to be air quotes free. This is going to be one of the punchier water hags you're going to find, but not really a concern here. Going to be pretty rudimentary for Mike to get through this.
Yeah, definitely. So always a little moment of terror there when you see that blue robe of, am I going to have this fast fight, or am I going to be sitting here just going through the entire gauntlet? Although, again, because you know this has to be done through your opponent, by your opponent as well, you know they have to sink that time, maybe you wouldn't mind getting the experience of doing the gauntlet here.
Yeah, that's definitely true. The gauntlet XP would certainly help. Let's see and make sure that Mike has that mute knife and that Murasame on that edge. I believe he already does. Do we get a save? No, we get the swag straight in. Going to just go toe-to-toe with these Magus Sisters, but with that perfect anchoring, should be pretty well set here. A little concerning having this Porum in the front row if she gets bopped, but does get that Zerk off with the run buffer, and this should be pretty well in hand for Mike.
Yep, definitely. Now, with his main damage dealer being Berserked, there is always a chance of Edge just never feels like hitting Cindy, and we'll just be doing a Mega Sister grind here unintentionally. But if he does have those pieces of gear on, his damage output's going to be really high, so he will be able to get through the spot pretty quickly. And first hit on to Cindy, good targeting Edge.
Yeah, Edge having it out for Cindy, who has the most HP, doing 4,500 damage without being backroad, I believe. So that would be an enormous amount of damage to Cindy, the front sister, or Mindy the front sister, Sandy, the back sister. The magic damage here, thankfully, isn't too bad, but Edge just has it out for Cindy, and just like that, goodbye, Cindy. Just have to watch out for Charm now on Edge, otherwise probably pretty free here.
Yep, luckily very good targeting there by the Edge, just knocking Cindy down immediately, and now going for Sandy, probably the most dangerous one at this point in time. Neon Grey did get the last trap chest there and got a crystal ring, a very good piece of gear, but not game-breaking like Adamant, so but definitely will help.
Yeah, there's definitely something to be said for that trap chest looting that Neon did. They got some great items, and while they may be behind the better part of the hook route right now, as soon as a Cecil shows up, if a Cecil shows up, that could very easily swing back into Neon's favor. So for Neon, they're going to be looking for things like Dwarf Castle to yield a Cecil or maybe an early Darkness from a freebie. But for Mike, the longer a Cecil doesn't show up, the better off he is. So it's going to be a really interesting underground and next 10 or 15 minutes to see if the guy shows up so that the sword can be put on.
Yeah. And Mike did get through that fight very safely there. The charm hit the right target, and so he's definitely through at 30 minutes, which is, we kind of started off talking about the seed being looking pretty challenging and being pretty rough on the runners, depending on what they found. And 30 minutes through a hook route, given what we saw at the start, looking very good there.
Yeah, definitely a strong time underground. 31 minutes, launching the Falcon now, putting the first objective on the board. with the starting characters of Edward and Porum, definitely left something to be desired. But both of our runners putting on a great show so far to get this accomplished and get that hook route taken care of.
And Neon Grey will be finding out here the information of Rosa as their character and the Mega Sisters. I didn't notice if they also have the Mute Knife or not. I'm not sure where that was picked up, but that will be a big factor if Neon Grey has it or not.
Yeah, that Mute Knife could definitely pay huge dividends here. I do see some Charm Arrows being picked up, so that could also potentially help with Stalemen or more Mad Ogres if Neon keeps fishing for things like Adamant Armor and things like that. Does find another Crystal Ring. So lots of incredible gear for Neon. Just great stuff that they are coming across. And thank you, Free Enterprise, for raiding over. Please make sure no spoilers from the race that you were coming from. But welcome on in to the Hat group for a match between Neon Grey and mikemike34.
You see Mike heading to Dwarf Castle as his first check, so still potentially also valuing those character checks. Maybe not the most happy with this party as it is, or just likes this as a check to get a key in.
Yeah, and with this Bahamut being pretty much free, it's a good time for Mike, maybe to pick up another character, even do some inventory management. A lot of good stuff that can be done here on Mike's side. We see him putting up a safety Star Veil just in case. I don't think that Star Veil will get consumed though, because I don't think Porum got back into the queue to queue it up while Edge was in the process of offing that Bahamut. So through the first fight fairly easily, a nice free fight at Dwarf 1, which is a scary place. And this is either a Ruby or an Elements. Mute Knife would be great for the Elements fight. Ice Claws would be great for Ruby. There is an extra bonus Thunderclaw from a Yang that Mike is not interested in, and we do have the Elements fight.
Which this location or spot definitely not too challenging, so I think Mike will have no problem getting through this fight as well and getting access to another key item.
There's going to be some big numbers. Well, okay. If it got to the second form, there were going to be some really big numbers there. But no second form. Edge will have none of it. Mike is through Dwarf Castle and continuing to be off to the races, making very quick work of the Overworld and now the beginning of the Underworld.
Definitely. Although we did see that is another character check done and still no Paladin Cecil there. So that Excal going to continue to, unfortunately, not be kind of making up the time Neon Grey invested into getting it, but there's still a lot of other key item checks that could lead to more character checks. So we just will have to see how early does Cecil show up, or does he even show up at all?
Yeah, it's hopefully one of the things where it's not like, oh, here's an Excal. Oh, here's a Crystal Sword. Oh, Cecil's on the Giant. Like, yeah. That's what the runners are not, or excuse me, that's what Mike would like to see happen, whether he knows it or not. That's what Neon doesn't want to see happen because they have that Excal.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if we do get that Crystal Sword as a reward, then surely that's where Cecil is. He must be hanging out on the Giant, the only place to be. Mike did get the Pan, though, so definitely works out well for his routing here through the Underground. Be able to do a one-stop shop into Sylph Cave there. So nice to have done this before heading over for the free Sheila 1 check.
Yeah, going to be fantastic to go through and just turn that Pan in. I wonder if routing-wise we see a Pan bonk before a Feymarch freebie. I expect some Tomra shopping here first. But I do wonder if that Pan bonk comes in first, maybe trying to pick up like a splashy Adamant armor or something like that. To maybe take on those Feymarch fights. Not that they're required, but given the key items we need, things like the Forge, there's a pretty decent chance there's going to be value in the Feymarch tonight.
Yeah, exactly. So if the runners are thinking that, will they be trying to route in that ability to do a single check in there? And yeah, I like the idea of doing the Pan bonk first before dipping in for that freebie, as well as we do have a few, or the ability to bot Sirens. I don't recall if either runner did, but also maybe just gaining a few levels before heading down to the Feymarch to again also help with taking on some bosses.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Mike did purchase a couple Siren J. He has 5 in his inventory,
Rare.
is out of the Ogre Axe, picks up a Ninja Sword, picks up a Boomerang. What a shop for that edge. Now is going to be back road. Always make sure to put the Boomerang in the right hand, not the left hand, to make sure that back row glitch works.
Moment of concern there as I saw him go for the boomerang, but nope, Mike did correctly. You will only get the back row glitch by putting that boomerang in the primary hand. I know that's a mistake I've made, and one you only need to make once.
Yeah, I think that's how everyone ultimately learns, is is wondering why their edge is only doing 200 damage with like a Murasame and a ninja sword on, and you're like, huh? What?
Yeah, I was just
But I
convinced
equipped it.
he must just not be a very good character. I must have just been confused in all my other seats. Okay.
But like so many,
Nope,
yeah, like so many other things in free enterprise, you learn by doing and by mistaking, having those areas of opportunity. So yeah, we see Neon getting to this water hag, and I'm sure they will be through it very quickly as well.
Mike showing us another key item check here. The Earth Crystal is our freebie in the Fey March. And Mike is interested in doing at least some shopping here, and we'll see how he feels about trying to tackle some bosses. At the very least, I imagine he'll peek and show us what's down here.
Yeah, I have a feeling that with that Earth Crystal, though, there's going to be very little hesitation for our runners to go play in Zot. You would want to find either a Cecil or a Fusoya. You would want to loot that treasury or rate that treasury. There's a lot of reasons to go play in Zot. Obviously, you'd turn in the pan first, but Zot would be very high on my list, even as a non-objective of things I would like to be doing.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a lot of strong motivation there, so we'll have to see if our runners value it as highly as you're saying.
And hopefully for Neon, they have a little bit better luck with Water Hag, not just bopping everyone important. This is one of the small issues with this very spot that Neon could run into, which is that whole agility situation we talked about, where they like to run high agility characters. Mike having that perfect anchoring with Rydia was able to get through that Water Hag, no issues whatsoever, and also that Magus Sisters fight. So we will see if Neon is able to have similar fortune here, or if that agility concern will continue to rear its head on this hook route. I hope for their sake it does not, as we are greeted with Mylon and friends. This is a lot of HP for a zombie dance party at this stage of the game. And that's an aggressive use of a Moonveil from Mike looking to get through this, I think.
Yeah, looks like it. So the Moonveil, yeah, there's a lot of HP to chew through here. The Moonveil will make it safe. But you have 35,000 HP, I believe, to get through at this location. So could take a fair amount of time. But if he's able to get through it, and there's a good key item here, especially one, say, gating one of our objectives, it could be a really strong play.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not a super dangerous fight. It's just going to take time. And there's always that, push and pull of can I versus should I? Absolutely can. But should you in this case? Very tough to tell.
Yeah, for sure. And on Neon Gray's side, I did not notice. Do you know if Neon Gray went for a safety save or just came right into the fight?
Ran right in.
All right.
Did not see a safety save. It looks like we're going to get multiple Zerkers coming out here.
Nice.
I believe that's a Porum that's about to be Zerked as well. Edge taking a reasonable amount of damage, but Rosa doing 2,800 damage. I believe that was a Silent Staff. Rosa going bonk.
Must be with that type of damage numbers. And we'll see if Porum is also well equipped. Maybe Mute Arrows or an Elven Bow or another Silent Staff. We'll have to see.
Yeah, who needs Mute Knives when you have Silent Staves? Go Rosa, Warrior Princess.
And definitely getting good damage, without doubt, sufficient damage to get through this fight. Although we do see here the small issue with Berserking is if they just don't target Cindy, you might have a longer fight on your hands, as the remedy will bring any of the other two dead sisters back up.
Yeah, on the plus side, though, it is XP.
Yep.
Every sister here represents, I believe, a flat out quarter of the XP in the location. So this is normally 25k XP. So every additional sister is going to count for what, 8,500 XP, 8,700, something like that. So Neon's going to be looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 33 to 35,000 on this fight, which is not a small amount. That is an egg's worth of XP. So not too bad at all.
Definitely. And that extra experience for some extra levels can definitely make some future fights faster. So we get to see. And Cindy has gone down relatively quickly. So it's not really like there's a huge time sink to get that extra experience. On Mike's side, we do see all the gas down. So we're just down to Mylon here, who's just going to be doing Lit 1, which really is not too threatening. And the occasional punch, which is going to be threatening. So we see Blink Cast come up for that.
Yeah, the punches here are going to be tied for some of the highest damage in the game because, well, then there's 2,068 damage to a Kayn who, well, doesn't have 2,068 health. So Free Enterprise carries over the boss stats from the vanilla game, but in places like this where Leviathan only uses magic, for whatever reason, the attack stats are through the roof. And when you put a boss that does physical damage, you get really hard hits. So there is an apple for all of that. That's going to be a reset for Mike. You want to keep that Moonveil. Is about 10 minutes ahead right now, but down a lot of equipment that Neon has. Down an Excal if a potential Cecil shows up. And every bit of time he spends here in the Fey March doing these checks, if Neon fades these, this could get very tight very quick.
Definitely. As well as we kind of noted, Neon very well might value that dwarf check quite highly. Again, looking for that Paladin Cecil to take that Excal. And we know that does give, or doesn't send Neon onto maybe too much of a, well, actually, I suppose it could. The Pan very well might send Neon Grey away from the party rock. So where our Paladin Cecil might be lying. So it could be very interesting to see if Neon Grey does get that and is able to find a Cecil or not quickly.
Yeah, Cecil again would be a huge boon to Neon, much more so than Mike, who I still think would take Cecil over Kayn. But I think that, you know, if Neon is able to find a Cecil and do it fairly quickly, that would be absolutely enormous for them. And heading straight down to the Fey March. So I think with Neon, what you're going to get here is a free key item check, a pan turn in, head back to the overworld, do Sheila 1 and 2, and then go immediately to Zop. I think that's probably how this Earth Crystal is going to dictate that. I think you're going to see a dwarf fade from Neon. I guess they are not going to have the pan in that case. So it'll be interesting to see.
You're right. But yeah, I could very much see that the Earth Crystal, that they will value that high enough because of the 2 checks to go ahead and fade dwarf, which is with having to fight 2 bosses to get that key item is kind of a time, fairly time and investment check, as well as a little bit of a cutscene there. So with the ability to find characters somewhere else, Neon might start valuing that Dwarf Castle single character check a lot less than otherwise they would. And Mom down.
Oh, well, that's required.
Yep, we need that. So we do have an objective, Forge, which requires both the Adamant and the Legend. So Mike, I'm sure, pretty happy they decided to spend the time going through these bosses.
Yeah, for Mike, that is the payout that he needed for spending the time in the Fey March. If both of those checks would have come up empty, you would feel really bad. I love the ambitious attempt at the Fey March at that relatively low level, really leveraging and showcasing how powerful that Moonveil was to get the party started, if you will, taking out those checks. So coming up with that Adamant Rock is enormous. It's half an objective, but it also is a potential equalizer for Mike. If that Legend Sword were to show up, that puts an Excal on the table for Mike and really makes the comeback mechanic that Neon has built in a little counterfeited. So that Legend Sword is now going to be another huge key item that's floating out there in the ether that could play a very big role in the outcome of this race. And the Sylphs have decided to just give an Excal, and that is terrible news for Neon Gray, to be completely frank. That is not what
It's
Neon is going to want to see when they go down and turn in the pan.
Yeah, so just to completely go against all your analysis there, here's an Excal immediately, but you're
Yeah.
right. Neon Gray very much was hoping to not see an Excal available in other means so that their time investment in doing those trap chests pays off if the Cecil shows up. And unfortunately now, Mike will also have an Excal if we do find that Paladin. So at this point, Mike, both, especially having found that Adamant, which the Fade March checks are very possible, an option to fade if you don't do them on your first trip in. You kind of feel motivated to not go back, to not have to spend that extra time walking down, again, depending on what else you find. So that could put Mike fairly far in the lead, but hey, there's still a lot of this seed left, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and we'll get to see a little bit more here from Mike. We have both Sheila 1 and Sheila 2 being turned in. We get a magma key. Oh, baby, we can get underground now. Thanks, Sheila. And a key item not to be named, maybe to be considered for future draft prospects, because I don't acknowledge its existence. No, I'm kidding, y'all. It's a twin harp. And it's actually a very convenient time for Mike to go through and do the twin harp with all of his party members at 1 HP from doing the walk through the Sylph Cave. This is actually a really good time to do the twin harp. And it looks like Mike is going at least somewhere near Troya. Is it going to be the Twin Harp? Is it going to be Za? We don't know yet, but this is definitely the landing place. And there is the Twin Harp check. It makes a lot of sense because you're already weakened. This is probably the best, most convenient time because then you just do Za right after this.
Exactly. A lot of things really aligned to make this check look appealing. As you kind of noted, having walked through the Sylph Cave, all your characters at 1 HP, the first phase of this fight, you want to just lose as fast as possible, so this helps. And as you note, hey, we want to do Tower of Zot likely right after this, so we have multiple things to do in this neighborhood. Yeah, a lot of things kind of aligned to be like, let's go ahead and do Twin Harp, even though it is a fairly time-intensive check here, as there's multiple cutscenes to get through.
Yeah, Mike's routing on this this particular seed. It's just working out beautifully for him. There's no right or wrong choices on seeds, or rather, excuse me, there are no right or wrong choices in randomizers. Sometimes the decisions you make really come up as a boon for you, and sometimes they don't. In this case, Mike is just getting everything he could ever want out of his route on the seed. So really good for him. Starting to get a little scary for Neon because they're going to be doing a lot of double dipping. But we have a Rate That Treasury and Harp coming in at the same time. Full Moon, Life Staff, Heroin Robe, Artemis Arrows, those are good. Stardust Rod, Prot Ring, Artie, okay. So that was Rosa Go Burr out of 10, but we also got some music to listen to.
Enjoy. And with that, we have Mike through the location. Some nice Sim City tunes here from chat. And just a Zeus comment though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice item. Probably going to keep it, but I think we can count one more to the Fate Heart crew for that one. But meanwhile, Neon is on their way up to Tower of Zot, and we do see a Leviathan hanging out where the Magus Sisters normally are. This is a very slow spot, also a very non-magic intensive spot. This is a fairly punchless fight, and Neon will be through this very shortly. I expect we will get a second helping of Treasury. No,
Oh,
Mike says, no, thank you. I don't want your stuff. You can keep your Rosa Go Burr in those boxes. I'm out of here.
yeah, very well. Maybe feeling comfortable already with the equipment they have, sufficient strength to get through any fights that they need to do. So if you're already feeling powerful enough, yeah, you can feel free to save a little bit of extra time by fading them.
Yeah, and making his way up the Tower of Zot to join Neon. Looks like we're going to have not quite dueling Leviathan fights there. But Mike will be, again, joining Neon very shortly for that Leviathan check. And we shall see what will become of these characters up here. A quick safety save from Neon. So we do get a little bit of a high five in the Tower of Zot save room. You love to see it. And I'm interested in seeing what this character up here is. That's an old man, but not even the correct old man. Our runners would really have loved to see a Fusoya there, but there is still the potential for redemption from the second character check.
Yep, definitely. Tella has been good in a lot of previous flag sets. Not, unfortunately, as appealing in this one. You're really looking to see the Fusoya, who can do everything Tella does, but just kind of better. Whoa. There's that Paladin Cecil. We have an Excal wielder.
Yeah, so I would fully expect, in this case, to see Neon take on that Excal wielding Cecil, probably in favor of one of the white mages. Yeah, and there is Porum out of here. And then on Mike's side, I think we're going to see it be Edge, Cecil, Porum, and he may opt to take Tella as an anchor as well over Rydia, just for the more useful anchoring and having a second source of Blink, Zerk, Cure 4 for the Z fight, again, probably 45 minutes to an hour from now. I'm very interested to see what route Mike goes with for the character selection here.
Yeah,
Neon's decision was fairly simple, honestly, to just off the Porum. But Mike's, there's a couple different directions he can go with this.
Yeah. I also have not noticed if Mike has kept Rydia down consistently. So, level 1. So that could be another reason for wanting to kick her up with Anchor, but it seems like he's just valuing the utility Tella brings, along with a relatively low agility. Not quite as low as a level 1 Rydia, but at least Tella can do some nice things.
Yeah, and looks like we get everyone's favorite blue robe to show up. Oh baby, your Cecil will have levels immediately because we have found the Alt Gauntlet, friends. One of the nice things about this gauntlet, everything's pretty weak here. Also, if you have an Edge who is acting first, you can go ahead and flame. And most things in the Tower of Zot, in this gauntlet anyway, are weak to flame.
And we actually see there on Mike's side, Edge getting that first turn and me throwing out that flame. So yeah, if you can get that first turn AoE spell, then these can become a lot faster and not be quite such a time sink. Your ideal situation is, in fact, you can get that spell off before having to watch all the attack animations. A lot of the gauntlets are too scary, usually. A few are, but most of them are just big time sinks, so being able to skip all those animations can help a lot. That being to happen, though, you generally have to be a fair bit faster, or have a really fast cast speed spell like Virus.
Yeah, it's actually interesting here. This is one of the few situations where you'd be better served having Edge in the middle instead of Tella, because Tella will give you proper anchoring, which means you're going to have delayed turns because of the Q time for Flame. So Edge in the middle would actually be faster and more reliable to get through these fights, but you never know that. You can't see this boss ahead of time. It's just one of those odd situations.
But still, even then, both of these parties are making quick work of this spot. Definitely easier than, once you've already kind of done the hook route, as you come back to these earlier game locations, everything else feels kind of a bit easier, and you're able to get through them relatively safely and relatively fast, as we're seeing being done by both runners here.
Yeah, and one of the neat things about this gauntlet, it has these like creams and jellies and slimes. These things have all of the physical defense in the world. Uh, they cannot be hit for more than one damage, even by a Crystal Sword Cecil in most cases. So you have to have some sort of magic to deal with them. Uh, there have been situations I've seen a gauntlet here or in the Tower of Babel where parties have literally had to turn around and run away because they did not have any way of dealing with a gauntlet because of those creams, jellies, tofu, slimes, etc. But we do see a darkness crystal from Zot here. This is very interesting because we really don't have a ton of progression that's been found on Earth. So I wonder if both runners are going to jettison straight to the moon here, or if Neon may choose to go back underground, maybe play with Dwarf Castle or Feymarch.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of mentioning if you did fade the Feymarch bosses on your first stop in, you might continue to fade them. I think Darkness Crystal is one of the big items that pushes you to do that, because if you get strong enough to feel like you can take on those Feymarch bosses, you generally feel like you can also probably take on some of those moon bosses. And so it's probably going to send you to the moon first and take on with all the additional key item location checks up there. And we know that actually will be not great in this seed, as our Adamant is hanging out inside the Feymarch.
Yeah, it definitely makes sense for our runners to do all of the checks that they are doing. It looks like Mike can be cleaning out Keyless Tower. This is likely a safety play to make sure that no stone is left unturned on the Earth, not wanting to lose to fading exactly one check on Earth. So this is kind of a defensive play in my mind. This tells me that Mike probably feels really good about his run so far, probably feels ahead, honestly, because this is not the type of check I think you make if you are feeling behind. I think you would be wanting to gamble on a moon, like a top-down moon or even a Crystal Sword Altar first type moon. So I think Mike, based on this play alone, is feeling really good about his run so far.
Yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to your comment from earlier when he did get a required key item out of that Feymarch. Knowing that that wasn't a big time sink has likely made Mike feel good on how his roading is going, as well as just some other things that have kind of gone nice for him. That Dwarf Castle providing the pan, so he's able to do the single Sylph Cave dip, being able to do Twin Harp and Earth Crystal together. A lot of the routing has just played out really nicely for him, so I can see why he feels like this run is going well, and he should do this defensive play as opposed to just gambling on the moon.
Yeah, and we do have that free fight up at the top of the tower. We have these guards up here. So the other thing is we know this fight is not going to be a slow fight. It's going to be a very quick one. I think he has coffins as well. So he'll be able to just knock off Tella here, make sure his anchoring's preserved. I think use one of those coffins, maybe even life glitch here, while Neon is heading through their dwarf castle to pick up the pan and do those turn-ins.
Yeah, exactly. And with that Cecil with the Excal, coming up here, even some extra experience if you did life glitch those. It's nice getting him ready for the moon, although we do have access to those sirens, so there's another option of just say popping 1 or 2 eggs before heading up there, just get a few extra levels on Cecil so we can really do some work on the moon. neongrey also not interested in taking in Yang into the party. Not too surprising again, given kind of that T Wildish, there being a lot of good gear generally means the other fighters, because you can equip all of them so well, tend to just perform better in most of these seeds.
Yeah, it's one of those situations where those claws just work on Edge as well, and he can just do as much with them. There's a Luca key for Mike, so Keyless Tower required, Feymarch required, the pan coming from Dwarf, just everything coming up Mike right now. He can do no wrong right now on this seed. Really interesting to see that, and not a common thing on this flag set. Normally you run into Zonks here and there. I guess with the way the overworld was, where there were 3 or 4 of them, it kind of makes sense it'd be dense key items here, but a lot of these offshoot locations really paying dividends for Mike.
Yeah, definitely has been working out very well, and I'm sure he's happy to see that again, knowing that the safety play coming down here is going to pay off for him. as well as, hey, there's another key item. So not only are we going to get an objective done there, but maybe we'll see another important item. So doubly required to get to this top of town.
Yeah, and the other thing with that is with the sealed cave being required, any key item that comes out of that, you're walking out, and that would put you at 10. And maybe you even do a little pre-grind before the moon, maybe 1 or 2 eggs, get 130, 140,000 XP on Cecil, and that can take you a long way as well. Meanwhile, Neon heading down and shopping Tamra, likely going to be turning the pan in soon as well. And while our runners are kind of making these long jaunts, I do want to make sure we get some shout outs going for the behind the scenes folks. Big thank you and kudos to D Shmoo for the restream, to Dubword for pushing and not eating the buttons, and Klopfer to you as well for being a wonderful co-commentator. Always a pleasure to do this with you.
I totally agree. Big pleasure doing it with you as well, Possum. So big shout out to everyone here. Please do follow everyone involved in the stream, as well as our runners who are just putting on a great show for us tonight.
All right, and we do see Mike making that long trek down the Luca Cave. It always seems a lot longer than it is. The Luca Cave, I think, is something like 1 minute and 7 seconds if you run down, save, and then check the key item. Obviously, we're not resetting out of this in Mike's case, so he is going to go ahead and complete this, but that walk just feels so long on the way down. You're like, can I be there already? And this is without encounters that you would have to deal with in vanilla, so I can only imagine how awful that would have been. Makes me happy I never played vanilla.
Thank goodness we do not run with encounters on.
We would be here for a while.
That'll make a much longer seed. And is there a item in here, or are we just doing this for an objective? Oh,
Wow.
All right.
That is required
doubly
as well.
required here. So rat tail being another objective we need to do, as well as another chain key item. This will be another key item check, so potential to be triply required.
So there's an interesting decision to be made here for Mike once this is done. We know there's a Rosa that is sitting somewhere in the seed, I think back in the Cydia for him right now. Does he pick up Rosa instead of going with the Porum, grind maybe half a dozen eggs, get her to, cure 4, and take her up to the moon instead of Porum? That's an interesting decision that I'm curious which direction Mike goes. I think that his party is pretty well set with a Zerker, 2 Zerkers and a White Mage and an Anchor. I'm just very curious to see if Rosa is sitting in the back of his mind at all, or if he is dedicated to the Porum play here. Meanwhile, this Ogopogo is not long for this world. This is going to be just a fairly simplistic fight at this point. People are going to be Zerk, they're going to hit the Ogopogo, and the Nopiest of Noodles is going to fall over, while Neon picks up the Twin Harp from that Sheila turn-in.
Now, Neon, having already done Tower of Zot, might be a little less inclined to go ahead and do that Twin Harp because of the fact they don't have to be in that neighborhood right now. So we'll have to see how they feel about this. But yeah, Mike, I think as you're finding out, the 2 Zerk White Mage Anchor party is exactly what you want to have when you run into an Ogo.
Well, looks like Neon is saying, show me the music, and we are going to get a reprisal. So that's always fun to get extra music. And that is favorite. Yeah, chat's favorite for sure. And that is the sealed cave complete for Mike. That is objective number 2, as well as the second objective completed. Has the rat tail, so we will soon see a third objective complete as well from Mike. So the numbers are going to start lighting up fairly quickly.
Okay, I mentioned Tella's utility. Here's one of the uses for him. He has warp, so he's able to get you out of the sealed cave faster than having to walk back out, because as you noted, walking through this can feel like very long to do. So being able to warp back out definitely feels a bit better.
Yeah, every time you get to save a couple seconds here and there, and we kind of alluded to some things Mike has done, the crumble skipping, taking Tella instead of Rydia to give him that utility. All of these little things are paying off, in addition to the fact that he's just had, for this particular seed, made the air quote correct decisions on what the route through this one was. So everything again coming up Mike here. But the moon still looms large. The moon could have a lot of value, and Neon is by no means out of this yet. Rosa at 1 HP is able to take care of herself, and we are going to get that second bit of music while Mike heads over to turn the rat tail in. So everybody enjoy once again.
Enjoy the encore.
All right, we have a second harp check complete. Neon Gray also giving us the script kill on Ruby. So we end up with the less than 1000 HP remaining when you have hit Ruby with a melee attack, and down goes Ruby. We have Neon opting to pop Siren here on floor 4 of Cave Magnus. This brings up a fight with the Panther, the Mage, and the Ogre. And you may be wondering, why would you Siren here? Neon putting on a great example of why. There are Bacchus wines that these ogres have, and they are significantly easier to steal from than the Mad Ogres, since steal is based on Edge's level relative to the enemy level. So very heads up by Neon, looking for those Bacchus for the triple Zerk and White Mage party, as opposed to Mike's double Zerk and White Mage party.
Definitely the Box Wine is really valuable when you have 3 characters you need to berserk. It takes a lot longer to just cast all those spells, and Mike checking the moon shop here, showing no Bacchus wines available. So I believe we've checked all the gated shops at this point. So no Bacchus wines for sale. Mike. Nope, go ahead.
I was going to say the no Bacchus wines for sale. Definitely going to benefit Neon here to pick these up. Mike going to be relying solely on the Porum, also decided not to go with the Rosa. So Mike going to just move ahead with this Porum and continue on.
Finding another character here, and Sid will not make the cut for this party. Is there any character in your mind you would have taken if you found up here on the Lunar throne?
I would have taken Fusoya over Porum, just for the utility, but that would have been the only possible change. Maybe there could be an argument for a second Cecil over an Edge, but that seems a little greedy. I think that it's just, it wouldn't really line up with how Mike has played this so far. He really doesn't have any reason to upset the apple cart, if you will. So I just think this is, again, a situation where he's very content with his party. He's played well to this point, and a lot of things have broken in his favor as well.
Yep, nature. Yep, and I think that makes a lot of sense as well. I can see Fu being the main person either runners would be interested in taking here. Neon may be a little more interested in that second Cecil, as they should have the 2 X-Skulls. But yeah, that's probably about it. Mike here, liking the bottom-up approach here. So we will head straight down to the bottom of the Lunar subterranean to take on the multiple locations we'd have down there, a lot of chances there to find some key items.
And the interesting thing here is, what do you do if you're in Mike's shoes and the first check you make has a Baron key? Do you leave? Or do you keep clearing the moon?
Yeah,
It's very tough because if we look at our remaining objectives, a Baron key could very easily have a Legend Sword, and the Giant's the only other thing remaining at that point. So I'm very curious to see if this Baron key shows up early on the moon. What is the option that Mike goes for?
yeah.
Uh,
Given he did that keyless tower, I do wonder if he is continuing to do the, I guess, the let's not gamble play, and so just clear all the bottom of the moon before exiting out. But again, say you get right in this ribbon room, that's 3 more checks to do up here. That's a lot of extra checks and a lot of extra time. So yeah, is it now worth the gamble? So I think it's also a lot. If he does find the Baron key up here, at which check does he find?
yeah, absolutely. And meanwhile, we do see Neon Gray. They are going up the tower as well. So going to get that Luca key and going to then head down, complete that objective, complete the rat tail turn-in as well. So the only thing that Neon effectively is going to be behind is, a couple of key item checks on the moon, but will and the Mom Bomb Adamant. But depending on where this Baron key is, let's say the Baron key is at, Cave Bahamut, and the rest of this moon is nothing. Neon still has a line on this race, so this Baron key is really going to be the determining factor. If it shows up sooner than later, ball is absolutely in Mike's court. If that Baron key takes a while to show up and it's somewhere at the top of the moon, Neon is right back in this thing.
Yeah, definitely. I find just for a second being the pass, which hey, you're not unhappy to see that. It's not your Baron key, but it's a good item to have in your inventory, and just some Artemis arrows. Definitely a little less helpful. Also, the ribbon room there having the dolls, a little unfortunate if you're hoping for that to be your grind. It's a good source of experience, and the dolls provide less of that.
Yeah, that takes you from 200,000 XP to very not 200,000. Also, this is a little bit of nightmare fuel for this party. This is a very punchy spot. 3 attacks are going to go off. Yeah, and Mike, I think wisely resetting there. I would want more XP before taking that on. And I think he may be going to pop a Siren and maybe take some gold dragons here to get that XP, to just make that safer. I think this is a very wise decision to do this, to get that extra 180,000 XP with a life glitch.
Yeah, exactly. As well as has the right items for doing this. Hourglasses makes this fight totally safe and relatively fast with some good damage that we have with this party. And yeah, and a good chunk of experience, especially after missing it in the ribbon room. So,
and actually could go ahead and equip even a bow and arrow with those Artemis arrows he just picked up if he wanted to make even quicker work of these. It's an ultimately very small optimization for the fight, but would be one that could get him a couple seconds back. Maybe instead of having that Excal on, you go like Artie or something like that. I don't know what bow he has, but something to certainly be aware of when you pick up Artemis arrows, that they hit that dragon weakness and can really expedite fights like this.
Yeah, so definitely this experience will help Mike out a lot. Do you think he'll be heading back into that same fight, or actually go check out the Ogo spot instead?
I think you might actually see one more Siren here. He had another Hourglass, but I might still be inclined to go with the Masa Altar. As scary as it is, that Baigen is going to be one of the nastier things you find on this moon. So I wouldn't hate going Masa first and then coming back here to that Baigen afterwards. That would be yet another 100,000 plus XP on top. And with Porum, every level helps. She doesn't get Cure 4 until level 48, which is just painful, frankly. And it looks like that is the route he's going to go with, while Neon is headed down that Luca cave to play with Ogopogo and get their rat tail.
Definitely a generally more challenging spot here, but as we have not seen the boss, this one at the Murasame altar might actually end up being a little easier.
That is a lot easier.
Yep. So exactly. Plague, will only be doing that count spell, and that's it. So as long as you can get that damage up fast enough, you'll be fine. If not, you just go ahead and pick up another character, and Plague will see someone who doesn't have the count status on them and cast count again. And you can just repeat that as often as you need to win the fight.
And actually, something really heads up here from Mike, at least attempting it. I don't think it's going to work because of some awkward timing here. Yeah, it doesn't look like it worked, but attempting to get the boomerang on and have the action in. Oh, it did go off. Okay, 3,800 definitely went off there. So that boomerang deals double damage for the air weakness that Plague has. So doing comparable damage to Excal Cecil and basically able to just run through this. Not really going to worry about too much. Does need to get rid of that Tella. There we go. But the count is refreshed. This fight is easy breezy and done. So yeah, Mike going to be through this Plague at the Ogopogo spot as well, and we'll see if he is rewarded.
In the meantime, Neon Grey has made the bottom of the sealed cave, so they'll be finding out this is where the rat tail is, one less thing that they will need to be hunting for, and soon to find out that Ogo is the boss down here. Now this spot is really, really fast, so without the slow anchor, might be a little more challenging.
Yeah, Neon does have the benefit though of having Rosa. That is the better thing here is I think Rosa may even already have Cure 3, so Ogo is going to get a lot more actions, but Rosa is going to be able to do a lot of work in this fight. Looks like we're just going Bacchus Wine with Rosa, though. Bacchus Wine with Edge. This is just Zerker v Ogopogo. And this is the Excalibur meets Oprah seed, because that is what, the fourth Excal we have seen? So you get an Excal, I get an Excal, the runners get Excals, Chat gets Excals. Check under your chair, I'm pretty sure there's an Excal there too.
If only the seed was giving out paladins as quickly.
Now, but that will drive Mike back to that Baigen, nearly certainly, but he is 300,000 XP richer at this point. Going to bring up Tella as an extra target as well, which makes a lot of sense. So we shall see how this goes. The first attempt was unsurprisingly difficult, but the second attempt, I would expect he'll have a lot better luck. Meanwhile, Neon, running into a bit of trouble there, was not able to finish Ogo before Ogo finished them. So that does bring up that concern about the agility you had mentioned between our two runners.
Yeah, fast spot and a pretty decent amount of HP there with 19,000. I imagine Rosa was also equipped to be doing damage there as Neon went for the Berserk strats. I didn't see if there's an equipment change to maybe make Rosa more white magic focused, as well as maybe even get slower to change the agility situation. But Neon Grey will get the fight another shot. We'll have to see if this one goes better.
Yeah, definitely. And meanwhile, we see Mike decided to dart one of the 17,386 Excals that have been found in the seed at Baigen's body, and should be through this fight fairly soon. The boomerang is still on instead of the ninja sword. That's only a minor cause for concern, though, as Edge is still just rocking this Baigen along with Cecil. We do get a recover, but it's just going to be a very small arm grind and no cause for concern.
We did get a change on Neon Grey's side here. They have moved Rosa out of the middle slot, so it has changed their agility setup a bit, and we'll have to see if this makes the difference in the fight.
Yeah, I think any curatives that Neon is able to throw at Ogo, or at the team rather, will definitely help. The Silk Web, while it will cause a blaze counter to come out, will definitely slow that Ogopogo down quite a bit. Just a matter of sustainable healing here. Can Neon get through this with what I believe is a Zerked Rosa still?
Yeah.
While Mike did pick up a pink tail from that Baigen, so not required, but hard to say no to adamant armors. They're kind of good.
Yeah, exactly. It's, again, not your progression, but not a key item you are upset to see. And unfortunately, that Cure 3 must have been aiming at either Edge or Rosa, and so it does not connect.
I think Kane and Cecil here can bring this home, though. I don't think there's too much cause for concern now. That's a lot of HP on Cecil.
That's so good paying off, being able to get the other Cure 3 queued up and healing Cecil.
And this is a fight where we may also see one or two of those Excaliburs darted.
It darted
That is
out.
a Val at a Crystal Sword altar. Very punchy spot, but not too terrifying, because there's only 25,000 HP here. Actually, Mike is out of Excals to throw, but does still have a Dragoon Spear. And Neon Gray is through the sealed cave. Very well done by them getting through that fight. Well done to Cecil as well, because Cecil just does Cecil things.
That is exactly why you do go hunting for those tier 8 items, because if you can get an Excal or a Crystal Sword on Cecil, yeah, he can solve lots of problems in lots of different fights for you.
Yeah, Cecil wakes up and sometimes he chooses love, mainly with Rosa, but other times he chooses violence with the enemies. And today, Cecil chose violence with the enemies.
Which turns out to work great for our runners. They like
It really does.
We see Mike here doing safety blinks here. You do have to eat the weak cast from Val, and then she will punch, so generally that'll take out a character, but if you can get some blinks up on them, you don't mind if they're knocked down to single digit HPs from the weak cast, they will be fine from the attack, as the blink will let them dodge.
Yeah, and there is Cure 4 on Porum. Finally, thank you, small child. I know that you were never supposed to get to level 48 in the vanilla game, but that's okay. A Stardust Rod, I am actually a little surprised to see the reset there. Learning Cure 4 seems like it would have been a pretty nice thing to have instead of a couple of extra seconds back. A little surprised by that. I can understand it though, because again, like, every couple seconds matter. Personally, I would just love to have Cure 4 in that situation. I'm a very conservative runner though.
There. Mike does know he does have more moon boss fights ahead of him, so he will be gaining some more experience, and so maybe for that reason it's alright with the reset.
Yeah, another thing is you don't need healing if everything dies first. So that could also be part of his logic with this, that I don't care about Cure 4. I don't need a Cure 4 if everything dies first. So
very valid strategy for basically every fight in the game. Especially with that pink tail, he does now have an adamant armor as he gets deeper into the seed, having to tackle that giant and Zeromus. So yeah, with Excal, adamant armor, Cecil, your damage output's really high. Your defenses are also good, so healing, you need that much of it.
Yeah, and meanwhile we see Neon has picked up their Blizzard from the Rat Tail tournament, and oh hi. So here's a fun little thing about Wyvern at the Murasame altar. Can't run buffer there. The level of the spot is too high. Your floating ticks at the start of the fight before even being able to buffer. So this is 100% Wyvern standard time. And this is also probably the second time where those Artie arrows actually could do more damage than the Excalibur for Cecil. So we'll see if Mike looks into that. Maybe that Ribbon Room reward. Wow, Ribbon Room reward. That is a hard thing to say. Maybe we'll see if we can get some Artemis action going quad damage on the dragon.
And Neon Gray has come back to the Fate March, so that we know is very important to see, as we do have the Adamant in here. And yet using the inn, so definitely interested in taking the boss fights. This was not just a shopping trip. And so Neon will be able to get their Adamant Rock, which is critical for finishing objective number 3 there, the Forge.
Yeah, and I think this is very heads up for Neon. Maybe realizing because of how the routing played out on the seed, because of a wipe or two here and there, that they could be behind, and saying, I will go to the Fey March, I'll do these checks. It's unlikely my opponent would have done them. If the value is here, I'm in good shape. Now we know that unfortunately for Neon, that is not going to work out from the tactical standpoint, but from the progression standpoint, it will net them that Adamant Rock, which is required, and hitting up that Mom Bomb first. So making the right choice of which one to go to. And we do see a Dragoon Spear dart, getting that rebuy on the Dragoon Spear from resetting out of the Crystal Sword altar, getting to throw an extra 5,000 damage straight to the dragon's face.
Yep, and getting that Ninja Sword back on here, and just starting the entire inventory. At least one Berserk down to help get some more damage out here on Wyvern. It is always interesting just how many people do you want Berserk, as when the nukes do start coming out, you'd like to be able to toss some life pots to keep picking everyone back up. But just see the Celsius dishing out tons of damage here, so should be able to get through the location quite quickly.
Like that quickly.
Mhm.
So yeah, there is Wyvern down. Porum learns Cure 4 again on Mike's side. And there is a Spoon. I think you keep this one though, because that represents 10,000 damage. That's just a better dart than the Dragoon Spear. So if the reason for the reset from the Crystal Sword Altar was keeping the Dragoon Spear dart, you're just upgrading darts in this case, as well as picking up an extra 120,000 XP. Meanwhile, Neon just plowing through that Mom Bomb, hello and goodbye. And we will see if they take on the Mylon and friends as well.
Mike heading on over to Cave Value, and we'll, I suppose, have to be finding something at this point. I'm trying to think, what checks do we have left here?
Yeah, this basically has to be either Tower or Baron Key, which is gating everything. So Cave Value having not just some, but pretty much all of the goods tonight.
There will be value.
Now, this is interesting, though, because as we kind of discussed, if Neon is to make the play of going top down, hits Value Cave, and goes back to Earth immediately, they are basically like one Zeromus wipe away, or one Antlion wipe away in this case. This is a gross fight, by the way, from being right back in this. And the way that Neon has played, they may very well go and do that top-down play. And we could see a very close finish here, since we know that everything is behind this this Value Cave.
Yeah. And I think to your earlier point, a lot of it might be which item is also here, because that Baron Key is a really appealing one to go ahead and chase if that's the one you find here. For the Tower Key, not nearly as appealing. So if we do see that Baron Key here, and Neon does happen to route that way, you're right, this could still end up as a very close race.
And it looks like we have some blinks coming out on Mike's side using one of my favorite abilities in the game, which is ninja magic called Image. Unfortunately, my goodness, Antlion, please calm down. You do not need to do this to the runners. I know you are rude, but you need to relax. So the counter even from Antlion is based on the physical damage at the spot. And that is why you're seeing counters north of 500 damage. Antlion, in its natural habitat, not playing around tonight.
Yeah, definitely. Again, exactly as kind of noted when we were at the Leviathan spot, is a spot that doesn't do any physical attacks. For some reason, just has incredibly high attack power. The Bahamut spot only doing its countdown, and then Mega Nuke, incredibly high attack power, which with Antlion is very rude, as it mostly punches and does that counter, which also happens to be linked off of attack power. So yeah, this spot hurts with an Antlion.
Yeah, we see Mike making a change here, a change that probably just saved his Paladin's life. Getting the Paladin in the back row just before taking. This is a Cecil, folks. The guy that wields all the best armor, taking almost 800 damage in the back row at level, what is he, 50? If that doesn't tell you how hard this spot hits, I don't know what does.
Yeah, and there we see the value being in the back row, taking far less damage, but unfortunately I don't believe Mike ever back row glitched his Cecil, so we also see the counter swing from Cecil only doing about 2k. So a lot safer, but going to be a little slow.
Yeah, I mean, slow and safe, though, is plenty fine. Tele doing his job, taking a 500 damage counter. Neon, meanwhile, is through all of the Fame Arch, and if they go top down, hot on Mike's heels.
Yeah, as well as, we didn't really talk about this, we do have the Complete the Giant of Babel as one of our objectives. There can be brood bosses in there, so that could be another thing that just throws a wrench into either of the runner's seeds and could throw it in either direction. We do see the Tower Key, so Mike we know will follow that. That does seem less appealing for Neon to want to follow.
Yeah, for Neon, I think seeing that Tower Key might lead them to go to the Murasame altar, find that Wyvern, probably bail on that Wyvern, because again, Neon does not have the agility set up really to do too much. maybe is just playing fast enough that they can put Wyvern at like RA7 or RA8, relative agility being the ultimate black magic. That might be a thing that Neon opts to do, especially taking some sirens here. If they can get through that Wyvern, or if they can't, I think either way, the tower key and whatever comes from that Wyvern, in this case the Spoon, they would be wanting to chase. So I can still see that tower key being chased, but I don't see how you get away from Murasame first. Meanwhile, Mike making the routing play of saving a cutscene to do the Giant of Babel on the way back from the moon. This will also put him just a stone's throw from the not the hovercraft, the Enterprise in Mysidia, and then he can just go underground, do the tower key, get the Baron key, which then ultimately, I believe, gates the package and the Legend Sword.
Yep, indeed. Mike is still holding that pink tail, and so it will be interesting to see if he chooses routing, picking up an admin armor, or just feels confident in all of the levels he's already gotten from the moon, as well as a big influx of experience he's about to get from doing the giant here, as that being sufficient power that he's good and doesn't need an admin armor.
Yeah, I mean, I think you will see an adamant armor be picked up before the Zeromus fight, just for those extra multipliers for the Paladin. But after all this XP, if he's doing enough damage, it may not be needed if he's got 2 power shirts or something like that. But a lot of that will also depend on what's up here for bosses. Is there any XP? I mean, that's something where I think you're going to see a mute. Well, actually, did he dart the mute knife?
Oh, true.
This could be very interesting if that mute knife is no longer in his inventory.
He's looking for it.
Yeah, darted the mute knife. So that's going to cost Mike a fair bit of time here. I think that mute knife did get lodged somewhere in between Antlion's googly eyes, which is pretty defensible because that fight is awful.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a bit of a punish. Not going to be the greatest feeling for Mike here.
Yeah, definitely. So going to just have to rely on his normal good weapons, which are still going to do good damage, but not being able to take advantage of the weakness here, the mage weakness. But being able to get a wall up means Asura will not be able to heal herself. So we'll be able to make his damage stick, although there's a lot of HP to chew through at this location.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Neon Grey, over 2,000 HP on all of their characters. There is nothing that is going to stand in the way of their party, with the exception of potentially that Wyvern that resides at the Murasame altar, but otherwise, everything else is just dead.
Yeah.
This party's going to rip the rest of the seed a new one.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can just gain all those levels, you have your 10 key items, you have access to sirens, you can get through these egg fights quickly, you can gain all your power before you go up to the moon, and then pretty much any boss, except maybe Wyvern, that you're running into up there, you can get through very quickly, as well as safely. And so that can work out really well depending on who we run into up there. Although we have seen those bosses, and I think Wyvern's the main concern.
Yeah, I think other than that Wyvern, I mean, this Asura fight is going to take a hot second. For Neon, for Mike, for anyone running this seat, it's going to take a hot second. But it's a matter of time. It's not a matter of difficulty at this point for either of the runners. And it's just going to be a matter of really the tense moment here is, does Neon go top down or does Neon go bottom up? The one advantage that Mike has here, other than being ahead on checks right now, is that pass. But if Neon is able to go top down, it's still probably within just one wipe away from a Z fight, and would be right back in this. I don't know how viable a Z wipe would be, but I think in Neon shoes, we're likely to see a top down play here.
Yeah, definitely very possible. And so that would be a really interesting decision here that will come out. As well as did Neon say hold on to that mute knife, because again, getting through this Asura fight with some extra time will definitely help. Because it did take Mike quite a while to chew through all that HP.
Yeah, all 65,000. Not fun. That's a lot of health on an annoying boss that just takes a while to get through anywhere, but not too bad. And let's see, do we get some swag from Mike? Is he just going to go straight on through to the other side, or is he going to save? Personally, I would save. I wouldn't want to do that as threat again. But Mike says, nothing can stop me. I am invincible. Will his hubris cost him, or will he be safe with the CPU spot? That's going to be air quotes safe, but unpleasant. That's a Demus that is super punchy and very mean.
Yeah, very punchy. Although once it does enter the mist phase, it does give you a chance to start getting up some blinks. And if you can blink your entire party, then yeah, the fight is safe. As we see Demus entering mist for the first form, fight's looking like it should get back under control for Mike here.
And a little surprised we're seeing Cure 4 come out, not seeing an image come out from Edge, not seeing blinks on Porum. Looks like we're zerking Edge here, so might be going for just the flat out kill on this, but I don't know that the damage is going to be there, and I don't know if there's a Silver Staff to make Silver Staff strats happen either. So I hope Mike gets through this, but this could be a little rough.
Definitely less HP here at the CPU spot than we have at the element spot, but still a lot to get through before Demus goes back into mist form. And yeah, while you are zerked, well, we don't have the Silver Staff. We do have coffins.
This is the rich man's unicorn. The coffin. So this is also, I suppose, a benefit of not having an adamant armor is you can just coffin someone. If you have an adamant armor on them, they are resistant to the fatal spell. So this is one way to accomplish said goal. It is an expensive way, but it works.
Yeah. For Mike, this is the last kind of end game boss fight he'll have to do before Zeromus, so he doesn't really need to save the coffins for taking out boss locations quickly. So yeah, money's already been spent buying them. Why not use them here to get some berserks out and get that damage out quickly?
Yeah, definitely makes sense. I'm gonna get that berserk going again, and hopefully for his sake, he doesn't have to slam another coffin into Edge. Unfortunately, we do see on the other side of our screen here, Neon is making that run down to the bottom of the Lunar subterranean. So we know that, sadly, this is a gigantic wild goose chase to the bottom of this moon, as there is very little, if any, value here other than a pass. So Neon going to do their darndest to get through everything, and will get through it quickly. But not having that tower key, not going top down, I think not going to be able to get there this evening, and a little unfortunate for Neon.
Yeah, I think you're right. It very well could be Neon, having done the Feymarch bosses and seeing that admin, is maybe feeling like, oh, maybe I'm not too far behind. If Mike said skip that, then there is a chance I am ahead in this race, and thus I can do the bottom-up approach, as opposed to feeling behind, which would likely push Neon to be doing the top-down approach.
Yeah, we'll see. Neon definitely has the hourglasses here for these dolls as well. 10 stacked there will certainly handle these. While Mike has completed that giant, will be off to the tower key to ultimately get the Baron key to ultimately complete the last two objectives.
Yep, and finish up everything. This is an opportunity to turn in the Pinktail, or we could do it again, as you were saying, just before Zeromus, or not at all. Looks like tower key is the first thing on Mike's mind.
Yeah, may wait until flying back up towards Baron, or even from Baron down towards the Forge, to route in that Pinktail, or may just say, I don't need it. I have all the levels in the world and all the power in the world. I'm fine. May even be a situation where you don't see a nerf on a big bang. It might just be Zerk, and go. Although that's a little riskier with a Porum, but still an option, as Neon is through the dolls and will pick up, I believe, a pass and
Arty arrows.
Arty arrows, right. I think Rosa already had Arty arrows, but still good.
Yeah. So here's one of the bosses that was still in the pool that could have been a real hassle to have run into at that element spot. But luckily he's just in the super cannon room.
You mean you don't like 2800 damage waves?
They can be a little tricky to deal with sometimes. So as we were talking about before, the element spot has big old buckets of HP, and Kanizo's wave attack is linked to the current HP of the boss location. So running into him at elements can, even for very powerful parties, be a hard fight. Fortunately, he's just hanging out in the super cannon room where he has 450 HP. Not a lot. Not scary.
Yeah, it's under 1,000, which means it is functionally irrelevant for this party at this point. But we do see a Mike walking down the tower. Meanwhile, Neon Grey taking on this Baigen, doing just oodles of damage with everyone in the party. Has a very powerful, extremely strong party. Not going to have any trouble getting through this, getting everyone zerked up, and away we go.
Yeah, I think we're seeing exactly the difference here between Mike's approach and Neon Grey of the grind before coming to the moon versus just hoping for the boss fights to be easy. Is Neon is able to just see this fight and go, yeah, I can take this one too, and not have to stop to do a grind like Mike did. All right, and show me Baron Key, or else we forgot something and there's another check out there.
Yeah, second gauntlet at second Antlion cave. No, I'm kidding.
I always hate when I have to go back to Antlion the second time.
Right? No, but it is
not
Baron Key. Technically speaking, it is quicker to route, since both are required, the basement first, then the throne, since it saves a slight walk back. So I will be interested to see what route Mike takes here. What do we have left that could even pose a problem for this team? We had Golbez at Ordeals 1. Wyvern is out of the pool. Odin is gone as well, I think.
Odin was first fighting Baron in, I think.
Yeah, so I don't even know what's really floating around that could stymie this party at this point. So I think you kind of just rush into the basement first, and you're really not scared of anything.
I would not be surprised to see Mike do that. He's been showing kind of a lot of just confidence here in his play. Did not save after that elements fight, which did take a fair amount of time. Just went ahead and took on CPU spot. So I would not be surprised to see him continue just go as fast as he can and head straight to the basement.
Yeah, and this is a sparkle. I'm not going to lie, I have no idea what sparkles are left. Obviously not plague, since we see that one. Pale Dim, you nailed it. Will not be presenting an issue whatsoever for our runners. At this point, any boss in Baron Castle is just going to explode, and explode Pale Dim does to the tune of 4,700 damage from Edge. That's a number that exists. Neon having a bit of an issue, I believe, with that plague. This is another situation where the anchoring, or excuse me, no, reset out, I believe, if the reward got through that plague. I think it was just another Excal.
So Mike will go ahead and do the Liberate Baron first and head down to the basement throne after. This fight will not pose a problem. Again, as you said, none of these fights at these locations, way too low level for him. But again, this is also just an easy fight in general. Another one of these boss fights that does not have the boss bit on. So if you have items like coffins or hourglasses, you can use them. Mike will just attack his way through it though.
Yeah, shy of like an early game Val or an early game Magus Sisters at this spot, it's really not super scary. There's a couple fights that will definitely give you pause for concern, but they are few and far between. Relatively easy spot. And oh hey,
our mop.
It's a mop. Do you take the mop over Porum? I would say no, but yeah.
Takes Porum a while to get Cure for, but Porum does have Cure for at this point, and so I'd rather have a dedicated white mage casting that than Fu, who was just okay with magic stats.
Yeah, Porum also at this point has like 6,000 willpower, so just tons of magic defense that Fu is never going to have. Also, was that a Sylph and was it a Massidian or a Troyan Elder? I never remember. Protecting
save us.
the party.
Let us know who was there. And here we are.
The
The
Legend
Legend
Sword.
Sword. Again, unlocks our objective number 3, but again, we knew it had to be here as we were running out of places to look.
Yeah, it looks like, and I don't remember when the last time Mike saved either is. He has done a ton of checks. Again, nothing really that scary, so I wonder if he is boss tracking to know that there's not really anything that's going to blow him up at this point. Does look like he was taking a brief menu there. I thought maybe we'd see a battle speed drop for safety, but it is just going to be the King and Queen of Eblan on the throne. Yeah, that is
Definitely
not a
not
boss.
scary. Nope.
That is going to cause problems.
Yeah, so this is one of the least scary fights in the game. They will cast Fire 2 and Fire 1 a set number of times, and then the fight will end, so you don't even have to fight if you don't want to. That being said, if your damage is high enough, fighting can be faster, specifically targeting down the king. Once the king is dead, the queen's next turn will just end the battle, or you can berserk for the extra damage and just try to kill everything as fast as you can.
Yep, and looks like Mike did opt for the berserk, and pew pew, the king is dead. Edge, I guess sending his own parents to the Hades because he does not want to go. But this will, as soon as the queen drops, give Mike everything he needs. Well, he already knows he's been in go mode for a while based on the key item distribution, but this will officially now put him in go mode, completing objective number 7, having access to the forge. So just a stone's throw away, and then will he turn the pigtail in? We shall see. Meanwhile, Neon is taking a second attempt at the plague up at the Masamune altar. Did reset out of the Stardust Rod from the Crystal Sword altar, so nobody wanting that Stardust Rod on stream today. But yeah, we do have a couple moon spots left for Neon, one check left for Mike, and away we go.
Seeing the Star Veil here on the side on this Plague, as kind of mentioned before, if Plague sees one of your characters not have the count status, Plague will cast Count. So if you have a Star Veil up and so the count's getting reflected, Plague will just always see that character. The Star Veil is not being counted, and you are totally safe from this fight.
Yep, and there's a number of different ways to cheese the Plague fight. Things that were typically not available in the vanilla game that have been figured out for the randomizer. It's just a very oddly structured fight from a randomizer perspective, a fairly soundly structured one from the vanilla game perspective. Do we see Mike, meanwhile, shop here in the Coke Forge shop? I would assume not.
Yeah, I can't imagine, given almost an hour ago he wasn't even willing to dip into the treasury, that he's also not too interested in an hour later trying to find more power.
No?
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay.
I wonder if we just get a stack of apples for Porum here. Yeah,
I do actually like that. Yeah. The one thing, it's like, you can always have some more HP.
I wonder if that makes it so that he doesn't even bother nerfing, if that can put Porum in a situation where she can just flat out survive and not have to worry.
Yep. And Mike does not feel like he needs the adamant armor here, although it does look like he had an airship parked in his way, so have to do a bit of a walk.
Yeah, we call that the Prance of Power, I think, instead of the Walk of Shame at this point, given how strong this team is. It's a 2200 HP, level 57 Porum. I think that's going to be all right. Klopfer, I see some flags coming out in chat. I know on the East Coast, it is past 1 in the morning. For me, it is just past 10 p.m. here on the West Coast. I'm not ready to sleep yet. I don't know what these flags mean.
I mean, it's clearly just for the nap time, because it's always a good time to nap. It doesn't matter.
Ooh,
so I'm pretty sure that's all that's coming in. But in chat, thank you. You're right. It's been an hour and 15 minutes. I think we've earned a little bit of nap time. But no, that's not what it's for. Zeromus, he's real big, real mean. We cannot just put him in any location. Zeromus will always end up at this location, but this is a randomizer. So we still need to randomize something if we're not going to change the location of this boss. So what we've done here is we've made this a randomized sprite. And so pulling from a huge collection there, which then leads us to ask a question every time we show up this location, which, Possum, if you would like to do the honors on the question.
Questions? Oh, I thought we were here for answers. Okay, fine. Whose booty are we gonna swooty this evening? And is it cute? And can it help me with my 401k?
And I hope the answer to all of those is yes. You might make throwing out the crystal here, so we'll get the answer to that question right now.
And meanwhile, Neon blitzing through that wyvern will be a little disappointed by the reward. And oh boy, if you needed nightmare fuel, have a moon. This
cute, right? We're going with cute on this one.
No, we're not going with cute. This is the second scariest sprite to me. I won't spoil what the other one is, but safe to say it's got a wrinkle in it. And for anyone who's seen that one, they probably know what it is. But yeah, Moonimus, not my favorite. Scary.
Yeah, Mike throwing out the silk web here to get a little bit slower on this Moonimus here, and curing up that counter nuke, and likely will just get both his fighters here zerked up and dishing out that damage.
Yeah, it's going to be a very easy fight from here on out for Mike. Getting those two Zerks going with the Edge and the Cecil. Probably going to be pushing somewhere around 9 to 10k damage. It was almost exactly 10k there between the two. A huge hit, over 5k for Edge. So may be able to avoid a second Big Bang, but we'll probably see a second Big Bang. Yeah. Unlikely to see rocks, or maybe just go straight to rocks. But this fight is, well, this is group stage in a nutshell. You get to Z, you are overpowered, and Z has a bad day.
Yep. But Mike does start the Cure 4 there for safety in case he does eat the full strength Big Bang. But yeah, at this point, he's looking pretty safe through this fight. neongrey, though, has now completed all the Lunar subterranean checks, and so does finally head over to Cave Value, where there is indeed the value today.
Yeah, and looks like that Antlion going to meet its maker. Neon going to have a far better time with this Antlion than Mike did. Definitely was a sketchy fight on Mike's side. neongrey, they are not going to have any issue whatsoever. Looks like we don't even see that second Big Bang on Mike's side, just rocks, which means the end is near for the moon, and frankly, I am happy with that. It terrifies me.
Mike doing his best to eliminate that moon as fast as possible, and GG's to him.
Yeah, GG's to Mike. We will see if we can bring him in for an interview. Mike, though, in his, I believe, second free enterprise tournament, now up to 2-0 in his group, so off to as good a start as you can humanly have.
Yep, being a official time there, 153.54.
Yeah, 153.54 for having to do a hook route, also having to do the Giants. Mike, I believe 28 out of 28 at the seed, which is every possible key item check, if I am not mistaken.
I do believe that's the case. So yeah, definitely very good sub 2 hours there for all of the challenges Mike had to go through there, posting a really good time.
Yeah, definitely very competitive. Certainly still has his work cut out for him with the rest of his group, but doing a fantastic job so far. And I believe that dinging in our ears means we are joined by the one and only Lufia 2 Ancient Cave Master and now free enterprise extraordinaire, mikemike34. GG's to you this evening. And you are muted if you are here.
Well, see if Mike can figure out the audio on his side. In the meantime, we have Jan.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, there we are. Hey, Mike. GG. Well done.
Thank you. That was a very full seed.
Definitely it
Yeah,
was.
we got the full FF4 experience.
Definitely looked like a full 28 checks there for you, so you had to do the entirety of the seed. I guess kind of with that uh, there in your mind, how were you feeling at different points in that seed? Are there any points where you're, say, feeling ahead, feeling behind, especially as you get close to having to do every check in the game?
Yeah, anytime you do 20 out of 28, you're nervous that someone faded. Maybe like you could have faded Ordeals there, you could have faded Harp. Um, there are a couple kind of longer checks that you didn't have to do. You could have started out doing the moon at value, um, and then chased Tower Key. So there were a lot of paths that could have led me in trouble, but I felt really good. I felt also bad, by the way, after I did the king spot and it was a zonk,
Hmm.
because that meant if the queen spot was also a zonk, then I had just spent a lot of time, like 9 minutes, in Fate March when I could have just dipped with that Earth Crystal.
Yep, definitely. We were actually talking about exactly that as you were playing through that fight, and then likely how your kind of mindset must have shifted when you finally did see the adamant rock being available
Oh
there.
yes, yeah, I felt a lot better after seeing Adamant, because if anyone faded it, then they'd have to return, and if they didn't, they were probably on pace with me.
Yeah, definitely. Speaking of mindset, though, what also were you thinking at the start of this seed? That was a bit of something.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of power right away, but about 4 minutes in, I was feeling better because I remember this guy Klopfer once needed something from the Damison Treasury, stepped in and got it, and then I got a dancing dagger, did the same thing, and felt way better.
Definitely, that was a good source of power for you there, and being able to get you through a few of those boss locations quickly, being able to clean up as well as eventually build out your party so it looked a little better in getting you through the rest of the early part of that seed.
Yeah, and then we got Kane on Hobbs and all as well.
I wanted to kind of pick your brain a little bit and ask, to me, what was an interesting decision point for you. Uh, Two different opportunities presented themselves where you could have taken a Rosa, once obviously on the way down the hook route, and the second time before going to the moon, having an option to go into the Tower of Wishes. Were you just committed at that point to the Porum, or did it ever weigh on your mind, if the seed ran long enough or if the bosses were hard enough that Rosa could be a concern for you leaving her behind?
I was good with Porum all the way. And really the only time I'd consider Rose over Porum there is if I could have had Berserk somehow before going up the hook route. But I really wanted it to take that dive right then and there, and I had Berserk already, and I threw Porum up in that top slot, Mute Knife Edge, and he did the work. Rosa would have been a big time expenditure there trying to get her up to. I would have had it in Upland Trap Chest or something. Or maybe Life Glitch the Mad Ogres to get Rosa there. I was ready to go, and Porum on these flags does everything I need her to. I just need Berserk and Blink, and I mean, I didn't need them, but I bought some apples at the end.
Definitely. We highlighted that, wondering if maybe you were going to go with no nerfing as well, putting Porum potentially out of range, and just letting the big bangs fly. So it was an interesting end to that one. I did want to ask about a couple other things real quick for you as well, before we let you enjoy your victory and your evening. As far as that Asura at the giant spot, or the element spot, we know that you had darted your mute knife at the Antlion. Were you just take us through? Were you concerned that something like that was going to cost you the victory? Like, what kind of was your mindset when that was going on?
So I think I've developed some darting muscle memory in the seed. I was just chucking everything the whole time, and I was ready to reset out of. In fact, if Wyvern had given me the package and not the spoon, I would have reset out of him, because I realized I threw my dart in my mute knife. I'm like, oh, Asura's still out there, and I have the giant. And then I got to Antlion, and that fight was intense. Like, I was worried I could wipe there, so I back rode Cecil, and I was throwing blinks out. I didn't want any counterattacks. Everyone was near death, so I'm just darting to avoid counterattacks, and there goes the Mew knife.
Yeah, you definitely had had a time with that Antlion. I think that goes without saying, but you managed, you made it through it. It might have taken some resources, but you got there, and that's what matters. The last thing I wanted to ask about was, you had that pink tail. At any point were you considering turning that in for an adamant armor, either after you did the bottom of the moon, or before the giant, or before Z? Was that just kind of not necessary at that point?
Well, it turns out it was kind of close to necessary given how hard Antlion was. But no, I didn't want to spend the time to go down to Earth, get the pink tail, then come back. Maybe if I would have chased Tower Key, I would have done it. But I don't think so. At that point, I was looking at the time. I knew this was going to get close to 2 hours, and Neon is we're usually pretty close. So I just wanted to fly through everything I could as fast as I could. I didn't see that if I didn't die somehow, I didn't feel like the adamant armor was going to be value added for time save. So I just didn't go for it.
Absolutely makes sense on all accounts. So you do move with this victory to 2-0 in your group. Definitely still some heavy hitters left for you to play. One such heavy hitter, my co-commentator this evening, Klopfer, and another one, Pankraz. So that is two folks that definitely are going to present you some challenges. Obviously, those are some pretty hype matches at this point, with you also moving to that undefeated record. How are you feeling? Are you liking your chances versus them? Where's your mindset at now, being at this? Obviously, better to be 2-0 than 0-2.
Right. I'm happy where things are at right now. Yeah, they're both going to be big challenges, and CS Radical is a fellow Puff, and you never know what we Puffs are going to do. So
that's true.
I expect a challenge every step of the way, and I really I've watched Klopfer playing. He's really good. I mean, you're really good. You're here, I guess. You and your Moogle.
Who enjoyed watching your play through all this. I definitely want to say GG's. Fantastic play on your end, showing really, really strong play through the entirety of the seed. I know I'm excited for our match.
Yeah, me too.
And speaking of future matches, Mike, when is your next match, or a couple matches, so we know when to see you in action again?
I play CS Radical on Friday, I believe, at the same time as tonight. And as tonight's match started, and Klopfer on Sunday, also same time.
Excellent. Well, everyone, you heard it here. Stay tuned on Friday and Sunday for some more Mike in your life. See if he can keep pushing that record higher. Have a chance to make it to brackets, either as a 1 or 2 seed in his group, and see where the chips fall from there. So GG's again to you, Mike. I am out of questions for you. Klopfer, got anything else for Mike, our winner this evening?
Nothing else from my end. Just want to again say, very well played, Mike, and everyone in chat, please do give Mike a follow to see more excellent free enterprise play, as well as some ancient cave play, it sounds like.
Yeah, thank you guys, and thanks to Klopfer and Possum on comms, and Dubword and Dishmu on the back end there. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, GG's again, and enjoy a well-deserved victory and the rest of your evening.
Thank you. Night.
And with that, we have Neon getting through the CPU location here. So finishing off their giant, they have access to that tower key, so they'll be able to go follow that up for their Baron key and be well on their way to the crystal as well.
Absolutely. The giant is complete for Neon. The Legend Sword, the package behind that Baron key, does not have the Baron key, I don't believe, but the giant is done. So we will see where Neon goes next to pick that Baron key up. If they do have it, we will certainly see them go there. So we'll see if that Antlion is required. Or excuse me, not required, but we'll see if Neon goes to that Antlion that we know is required, or if they head straight over to Baron.
Yep, sure enough, as well as they do have the choice here of picking up that adamant armor if they're interested in it, or just going to be trusting their current power level to get them through the rest of the seed.
And I think
Or
without an anchor, that adamant armor does a lot more work for Neon than it would for Mike as well, giving some more agility, some more speed, more power, just allowing for all of those things to happen. So we will see where Neon opts to go from here. It doesn't have the Baron key yet because the tower key came from Antlion. Of course.
So did finish the Antlion fight, and so has access to the tower key. So we'll go up to the super cannon room here, clear out that fight very quickly, no problems at all with this party, and get our Baron key to head into that for our last set of objectives. As we've seen what fights are left here, none of this will pose a problem for Neon Grey until that final Ceremus fight. And even that, they have quite good levels, quite good gear. So I think a lot of it might just be what exactly is their agility situation. Will they be able to get a really nice breakpoint and have like one of their perfect anchors for that? Or will they be looking for something that they can make do and just get through the fight?
Or there is a third option, which is how fast can we make a single character? And can we get it faster than Zeromus itself? Do we get the vaunted 70 agility edge to go toe-to-toe with Zeromus?
We have a lot of levels, as you noted. That adamant armor provides a good chunk of agility. There's another 15. We have multiple crystal rings. You know, this is the seed. This is the seed. You can get up to those agility levels.
And if ever you're going to see it, it would be with a runner like Neon as well, who loves their high agility. So you just never know. I'd love to see it at least once in this tournament.
Yes, that'd definitely be fun to see. So Neon, that's what we're saying, for the people. We'll have to see Neon's interest in doing that for us.
Always got to do it for the people. But Neon will be making their way down the tower, completing that super cannon room, getting the Baron key, headed over to Baron, and we will see what direction Neon goes from there, whether they do the Baron basement first or if they opt for liberating the castle first, turning in that forge afterwards, and then beating up the big bad Moonomus for themselves as well. And my request is just to make that Moonomus quick, because I don't like looking at it. It scares me.
And so it's kind of noted for going through Baron, it is definitely a little faster to go through to the basement throne first, as opposed to liberate and then the basement throne. So we also know the boss down there happens to be the freest of free bosses, so definitely would work well in this situation. But it'll be interesting to see if Neon is one kind of how safe do they feel in general, as well as if they've been boss tracking, they might have a good idea of who's left in the pool and feel even more confident about going down there.
Yeah, and I think while this run is happening, I do want to make sure that we shout out one last time our restream team. Again, a huge thank you, as Mike had stated during his interview. A huge thank you to Dishmu for the behind the scenes work, along with Dubward doing the tracking. Our runners, again, Neon Grey and Mike both put on a fantastic show and are in the process of still putting on said fantastic show for you. And of course, my co-commentator, Klopfer, as well. So please make sure everyone gets a follow. We greatly appreciate you hanging out tonight and watching a heck of a race with us.
And right back at you. Appreciate your contributions here as well, Possum. And yes, please do follow everyone here, which is as well. Thank you, Possum, for putting it into the chat. Please follow everyone here for all the work they've done. We would not be seeing any of this without our restreamer, and we'd have no idea what was going on without our tracker. So big thanks to both of them.
Definitely. And please also make sure to give the Free Enterprise 2 channel a follow if you haven't already. This is not the flagship station, if you will. That is the Free Enterprise channel. But the sooner we can push this channel to affiliate, and then beyond that to possibly partner, we can get a ton more emotes coming in. Beyond just what Free Enterprise 1 has, we can get them on Free Enterprise 2 as well. So those follow buttons, they do help, even on a channel like this. So that would also be appreciated. As we see Neon Gray making their way down to the basement, going to save a couple of extra seconds here.
Feeling confident on being able to take this boss fight. I'm sure seeing who it is, feeling even more confident right now.
Yeah, I don't know if there's a world even where this fight is losable. I don't know that you even have enough time to like white your own party, attack
Actively
them with
try.
Excal. Yeah, I don't know that you could actively throw this fight. I don't think it's possible.
Maybe here, because you have the fast agility anchors, you might get enough turns to be able to knock your own party down.
True.
But I think it would be a challenge to do so. And I know the fast agility anchor here means the king queen are going slow, and so if you're trying to just do the script kill here, just let them do all their spells. Why not speed them up?
Casting fast on the king. I love it.
Definitely. Very, very fun play here from Neon. Yeah, and so we'll see the alternate kill here. Mike went just for the berserk, knock out all the HP. But again, you can always just, whenever you run into this fight, wait it out. And after a handful of casts, Fire 2 and Fire 1, the fight will end, as we're seeing here.
Yeah, unless you are playing something like a Mystery Seed where free bosses are turned off, you're always going to be able to just wait this out. You just have to have more than like 86 HP or whatever the Fire 2 caps at, and maybe a couple of cure potions, and you're through. So.
Yep. Yeah, even as your first fight in any location in this flag set, you're likely able to take the fight on by just throwing some of those cure 2 potions around. Maybe Rydia Eddie might have a problem with it.
Yeah, I was going to say I have actually wiped to King Queen Eblin at Antlion Cave before with like Rydia,
Team 90
Rydia,
HP.
Edward. Yeah. Like, okay, thanks, game. But, you know, it's very rare.
Mostly winnable in all scenarios, but yeah, sometimes the game just throw the wrong combination at you.
We do see Neon through. 48 agility on Rosa. Ran out of arrows, so actually lost 10 there. So this should be 58 now. You know, just casual 58 agility, Rosa. Why not?
Pretty fast, all right.
I do not think these Dark Imps are going to stand much of a chance here.
Look, but Neon might still have some hourglasses left if they really, really want to be safe on this one. But no, this fight should be won.
Yeah, I would expect to see hold A, followed by hold A, followed by hold A, and this fight will end in 3 hits.
If you are looking, just get those attack commands out as fast as possible. You can just hold that button down, and they'll just queue in as fast as you can.
The nice part about it being the imps there, that's also not going to crumble, so saving a couple extra seconds, always nice.
Yeah, not surprisingly, also not interested in grabbing a new character at this point in the seed. Very happy with their party, and we'll be taking this into the Zeronis fight.
Yeah, I just don't think for the way that Neon plays, 20 agility on a Fusoya is going to work. Neon looking more for the characters that are at 40 or 50 agility. So Fusoya probably wouldn't ever get a turn in the Z fight, thus rendering him obsolete upon acquiring for this party.
One less menu you have to see.
That's true.
Or whatever that might be worth. And there we are. Neon finishing objective 1 here and getting the Legend Sword so they can do their forge and then head off to Zeronis. We'll see if Neon's also interested in doing a little bit of shopping here in the in Kokol, but
I think there were Murasames here, so maybe a Murasame. Although Murasames do lower agility, so it might have an adverse effect for what Neon is going for, but a ton of strength and power.
Definitely could be a possible pickup. Or yeah, we do have a pile of money. We could just buy a bunch of apples,
Also
more HP. More HP. Neon is interested in checking, and we'll see if anything here interests them or not. No. Definitely with the Rosa as their white mage. doesn't need the apples quite as much. Rosa has much better HP growth than Porum, so already very safe from those big bangs.
Yeah, this Rosa, I think, is looking at 3,000 HP or right around it last I looked, which is a lot for a white mage. So I am curious to see if Rosa will even be white maging in this fight, or if Rosa is also going to be Zerg.
It's all Zerk all the time.
I think this is a trip to acquire some more Bacchus wines.
Were they for sale? I believe. Oh,
I don't
guess we'll
think
see.
they were, but
Silk webs. Oh, but doesn't need them. Okay.
I wonder if Neon had not shopped all of the underground shops. That is also a
Let's check.
possibility.
Yeah, very well could be that. Ishmu noting that we did have to steal them from the ogres in Magnus, so very well possible box ones are not for sale in this one.
Which will notably make this fight the Zeromus fight a little more awkward for Neon not having Bacchus. But a Rosa who is at 58 agility will be able to get the Zerks out very quickly anyway, so much less of a concern than, let's say, a Rosa who's at 25 agility. Yeah, Neon will still be fine even with no Bacchus here.
Yep, definitely. And while Neon did steal a stack of them when they were in Cave Magnus, very well could have used all of them on the moon. There were quite a few challenging fights up there, as well as there are just ways to get through to those piles of HP. So very well might be out at this point. Double checking if we have a better anchor.
Was that 42 on Kane?
Yep. And so does Kane make it to the middle? So multiples of 14 are what we're interested in. 14 itself, not actually all that interesting, but 28, 42, 56, and then all the way up to 70 are the breakpoints on agility. You'd like to be at that perfectly, or just a little above it if possible. Don't be just slightly below. That's bad. That's the main thoughts on agility. And if all of that's tricky to keep track of, just slap a curse ring on a slow character, throw them in the middle, and then things just kind of work out.
I am going to have to ask Neon about not putting this Kane in the middle slot for one particular reason. Neon's racing account on Twitch, if you ever want to follow Neon while they are racing, is 42 agility anchor. So I have to ask Neon, why are we not anchoring with the 42 agility Kane? It just works out. Neon also loves Kane. That is their favorite character. So we're going to have words in this interview, Neon, because I have questions.
And chat calling out Neon representing a hat group here with the great hats. So hat.
And did move those Gaea hats up in their inventory as well. So that is a fantastic bit of, not technique per se, but bit of showmanship, if you will, for the crowd. So very well done to Neon on all fronts.
And here's your moment to look away if you don't like the Z sprite we know we have coming up.
Look away. Say no more. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that is a 3,000 HP Rosa, a 4,000 HP Edge. No, excuse me, 3,000 HP Edge, 4,000 HP Cecil and Kane. I think we're okay here.
Yeah, those are some pretty healthy numbers here. Lots of levels, lots of good equipment. So we'll be doing a lot of good damage, and we can take those attacks pretty easily. Neon does have 4 Bacchus wines left, so able to berserk up the entire party if they're interested. Or would they leave one character unberserked to heal? But probably not. Oh. Silk Web, though, very nice. Both get some additional speed versus Zeromus here, and nerf that first Big Bang.
But with the store, one person it could have hit that could cause an issue or not.
Yeah. Not hitting too hard there. I'm interested what Neon Neon-Grey was shopping for then, if they did have the 4 bucket swines. We'll have to find out that as well.
Yeah, no, had 4 Bacchus wines, had silk webs. That's, yeah, that's interesting.
And now everyone hit the moon.
Yeah, this moon is taking, what is this, 12 to 14,000 damage around here?
Yeah, definitely. The nice thing of having 4 Zerkers is that's extra people doing damage. And with all the really good gear we require through this entire seed, yeah, we're just doing a ton of damage here.
Which is good, because that means we have to look at the moon less.
So, thank you, Neon, for tons of damage. And that was just, again, with these high agility anchors, we just hit the first Big Bang there, so that was the nerfed one. And we are making good progress through this fight.
And even if a second Big Bang were to come out, there's, I mean, Edge probably survives. Cecil and Kane absolutely survive. Rosa might even walk it off, given her levels. I know she's got some willpower and wisdom reducing gear on, but her levels are just so huge that so much willpower has been attained, getting up to the power that she is at right now.
Cecil and Kane should even be in sufficient HP levels to survive our rocks if we have to see that immediately after.
Yep.
So, yep, Step Lively is chat saying controller down. The fight's done at this point. You can go do something else. Check back in a minute.
So, or less, because I think that's rocks. Yeah.
There it is. So if Neon also does not like looking at the moon, they also have the option of just looking away for a bit. And there we go.
Yeah, that is going to do it. Neon Grey has defeated the moon, thankfully. We'll watch it crumble away, hopefully quickly.
GG's to them.
Yes, GG's to Neon Grey. Very well run. And we will see if we can get Neon in for an interview as well. And talk about this lovely little seed that was rolled up for our runners, courtesy of our restreamer D-Shmoo this evening.
Sure. All right. I think we will be getting that. And as well, see if we can get an official time here for Neon Grey.
And while we wait for that official time, there it is, 2:22:46. We are joined by this evening's second place finisher, but number 1 runner in our heart, Neon Grey. GG's to you, Neon.
Thank you. Boy, those were some key item distributions, weren't they?
They are distributions that existed, and you did your best to find all of them, and you did.
I sure did. I didn't keep all of them, but the worst was every time I hit one of those really long, time-consuming checks where I had something I needed to get out of it at the end. Like, that awful dwarf to Sheila to Zotshade. That gave me a Cecil, and then the Magnus check, which, I hated not being able to reset out of that, but by the time I went, I'd already narrowed down so many of the shops. I'm like, there is probably no wine in this scene. And as Quapper, as you will know, without wine, you can get at least for something like that setup, you can get burned really badly. Casting Berserk is not fast enough.
Yeah, love the tech that you did, using the Siren in Cave Magnus on floor 4, pulling that encounter with the Panther, the Mage, and the Ogre, so you could steal that Bacchus wine. It was very nice for your party composition. I do have to ask, relating to that party comp, though, I know that you went with that 58 agility Rosa, but come on now, you had 42 agility Kane. That's you, 42 agility Anchor.
I did. I needed a better chance of getting multiple turns on Zerobus. largely when you get that high up, you're I I still need to actually do numbers work on this, but it feels like when you're that high up, it feels like your actual clock, your actual turn rate is a lot more. You've got a lot more play there than you do with lower speeds. And I've found it is possible to uh lap Zeromus on turns. And frankly, Kane is absolutely the weak link in that party. Like
That's your boy, though.
yeah, he absolutely is. He was doing great work there. I for a hot second I thought I actually thought I saw that food. I was like, do I wanna? But I'm like, no. That would actually completely ruin everything. The whole setup. Like you don't need him to take with the Fu in that setup. You don't need him to take multiple turns. You need him to have a turn on your screen ready to go. So it doesn't matter as much that he's that low. The disparity is that high. But the fact is, if I make that swap there, I see another big bang, and that just gets annoying.
Yeah, definitely makes sense.
We also were kind of wondering towards the end there that you did go hunting for some or shopping for something, and we did see the Bacchus ones in your inventory as you entered the Z fight. What were you looking for at the end then?
I was looking for Soma drops, but I think they were in Antlion Cave.
I like it.
Fantastic.
Well, I wish you'd found those. But definitely very good heads up play there on picking up those Bacchus ones, because sure enough, they were not for sale. And we were definitely noting, yeah, with that very heavy Zerk party and the high Jody anchors or high Jody setup you were running, yeah, it made a ton of sense to have that. And with all of those locations you had to clear on the moon, definitely I'm sure paid off there.
Yeah, I just wish they had I just wish I didn't have to just ration them so much. Again, it's less on fights that aren't so extremely high on the clock rate. It is not as urgent. Because if you're faster than the boss, it doesn't matter. You're getting more turns. You can just hold A through most of those. If you need to actually do other things with your turns, like in several of those moon fights, you know, you've got the extra play. You can spend turns on things that require manual input. But largely for fights that require precision, there is nothing more precise than automatic input.
Definitely. Gets you through those quickly. As well as before heading up to the moon, we did notice you did a pretty substantial grind. Was there a specific target you had in mind there?
I had 10 sirens. I was just going to use them all. The goal at that point is generally just to take the moon at a dead run. Don't look back. Go in, smash and grab, get what you need, get out as soon as you can. And of course I'm sitting there going, oh, I bet it's top down, but I don't have a pass. I have to go bottom up because it's just such a bad loop if it's, you know, if I do have to go down. And of course I probably spent more time dealing with all of those bosses in aggregate, but well, what can you do?
Yeah, definitely. Unfortunately, no way to know there. That was definitely a big question in our mind was what was your plan to do the top down or that bottom up? And yeah, I can see the desire for having that pass being pushed for that little high density there at the bottom. And you know, of course, it's rando and it's gonna rando, so you never know where those things are gonna go. And unfortunately, it just turned out to not have the items you wanted to have down at the bottom of the lunar subterranean.
Yeah, and it's like at this point, you know, the clock is ticking up, and I'm like, oh god, he's gonna get me, and I'm so worried the entire time. And I hit that wyvern, and I'm like, oh, if this is it, I have it, because that's not a nice spot for wyvern. Uh, typically,
Yeah.
The spoon was nice for Asura, I guess.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, you're right. That definitely was a harder fight for Mike the way he was set up. So definitely could have been a difference maker there.
Uh, uh, but what can you do? I picked the wrong checks and he beat me. He's very good.
Definitely. But still, very well played on your end, and we're definitely knowing good tech through all of the seed. Lots of good decision making and using the resources you did have. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of the times, just kind of the also routing there seemed to work. Unfortunately, a lot better for Mike than it did for you.
Yeah, it's just how it goes. Yeah, it's frustrating. I won't lie, but also he's very good. So what can you do?
Definitely, for
Well,
sure.
you can
Uh,
always bounce back. So speaking of, when is the next time we get to see you pull off more agility shenanigans, and any more matches scheduled coming up, or anything like that?
I am actually scheduled tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock.
Oh wow, no rest for the wicked.
I brilliantly wasn't looking at a calendar when I was looking at these actual dates I was proposing. But me and Step, two of us tomorrow morning.
Excellent. Well, that'll be a fun watch. I believe that Mike, I think, also got a win over Step. So a battle between you and Step of folks who need to get revenge on Mike and work their way back to a play-in game to try to maybe take that from him. So I certainly wish you the best of luck in that matchup against Step Lively.
Oh, thank you kindly. I need to look at the numbers and see if I still have a chance. I hope so. If not, I mean, it won't be the first time I've been knocked out of a tournament. Uh, but we'll see.
For sure. Well, definitely want to thank you for putting on the race for us tonight. It was definitely a lot of fun to watch and a lot of good tech to see from you, and definitely good to see the different strategy there. The high agility is good to see. So thanks for putting that on, and everyone in chat, please do make sure to give Neon Gray a follow.
I do not stream a ton, but yeah.
Yeah, well, thank you again, Neon. Any final thoughts on the seat, or final thoughts on the evening, the tournament, anything like that before we let you go enjoy the rest of your evening?
Not really. This has been a really interesting flag set. Just because it does make it makes some unusual strategies viable. Just the collection of what's available in the seeds, and the high completion rate. You get some interesting options that I think have been underexplored throughout Free Enterprise's history, and I can't say, it's been fun poking at them. So even if I don't win, doing a science is always cool.
Excellent.
Definitely,
Well,
and
we love
we appreciate seeing them.
science.
Definitely entertaining to watch.
Oh, thank you kindly, the both of you, for commentating. I really cannot wait to watch this back and just see how it could have gone if you don't pick every single wrong check in the game.
Well, trust me, it happens to all of us.
Yeah. Who's among us, really? Well, thank you both. And thank you, Shmoo and Dubword also. Thanks, Mike. You're a great opponent. Always really good running against you. GG.
Awesome. Well, thank you one last time, Neon, for putting on a heck of a show for us. And we look forward to watching you race tomorrow morning. I hope you have a great evening.
Not a long one, I don't think. I should probably go to bed early tonight.
Definitely. All right, well, folks, that was Neon Gray, our second place finisher this evening. But again, first in our hearts. Great job to Neon. GG's once again. Do be sure to give both Neon Gray and mikemike34 a follow. They are both fantastic runners of the game, very entertaining individuals, and make sure to show them some love. We are not done, however, with Free Enterprise for the evening. We are going to be sending y'all over to Fried Potato, who is doing a Fuwario match. But before we do that, we do want to give y'all a little bit of highlight for what is coming up in the Adamant Cup tomorrow. Starting out, we have, I believe, a match between... Let me scroll up here. We have Neon Gray and Step Lively at 11 a.m. Eastern, Gale Swift and Technolink at 2 p.m. Then we have 4 different matches at 7 o'clock. David vs. Mechalink, Aizen Tayama vs. Scratch Dragon in a battle of old hats, Microcorgs vs. Rex Banner, Elvin Sorrow vs. Vitasia. Then at 8 o'clock, we have CS Radical versus Klopfer, the man opposite myself this evening. We also have Moonblaze Wolf versus Curios, which will be restreamed. Martin Broadcloak versus Woobear at the same time, also restreamed. We have Zyrak and Nightdew at 9 o'clock. Firebird Lover versus Couch 23 at 9 o'clock. Blue Cat Loach versus John Burkhead at 9:30. Dragus versus Zeke at 10. And finishing out the night, D. Shmoo, our restreamer this evening, versus Sheep Launcher at 11 o'clock. So thank you so much to everyone for hanging out this evening. Again, we will be sending everyone over to Fried Potato, who is finishing up a Fuwario seed. Please make sure no spoilers on this race. But again, huge thank you to everyone. D. Shmoo, Dubword behind the scenes, my co-commentator, iClopper, and Neon Gray and Mike for putting on a heck of a show. Klopfer, sorry I hogged the mic there. Take us away.
No worries. Again, big thanks to Possum as well. And thanks everyone for joining us here. And good luck to everyone on all your own races and your seeds in Free Enterprise. And let's head on over here to watch up another Z fight. Thanks for joining us tonight.